With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Ever witnessed someone so fast on track you doubt you could ever be on their level? The mission of Advanced Motorsports is to demonstrate the speed is achievable for everyone. With the expertise of some of the best sim drivers in North America, we are set to release free content on social media and comprehensive guides on our website. For those seeking the ultimate experience, our Advanced Motorsport Institute and personalized coaching sessions are the way to go. No matter your level of experience, we invite you to follow us on our social media to learn to be fast.
Time is winding down in 2023, and tonight marks the penultimate round of the championship for the GT3 drivers. They head to the land of the rising sun with their eyes firmly focused on their championship fight, and we get underway first with the Precision Racing League GT3 Fix Series. Hello everyone, delighted to have your company once again here on RaceSpotTV, where, as ever, it's our Junior Kanky Party, it's Joey Tebben to walk you through all of the action. And what an action-packed season it has been, but Joey, all good things must come to an end. Fuji and Watkins Glen, the only two races left in front of our drivers here tonight.
We're almost to the finish line, but how different can two tracks be? Last week we were at Leiden on a track that's only 3 kilometers long. Today we go to Fuji. The front straight alone is 1.5 kilometers long. The front straight is as long as half the track we went to last week. It's going to be a lot less turning, a lot more fuel burning, and a lot more straight line speed required for the next 35 minutes and 40 minutes coming up later.
We have just come, of course, off the iRacing Fuji 8 hours, so maybe some of these drivers have a decent amount of practice, but it will be interesting to see how they all get on. Let's talk you through the championship standings, of course, because this is the final round of the championship that can be dropped. Drivers, of course, run 10 races. The first 9, you can have one bad round excluded. The 10th and final race must be factored in no matter what you do. So this is an important round. 24 points currently split Jeff Carollo from Ross Sortino, 10 points further back to Eric Kulaga, and then a further 10 points back to Artie Mercedes. But ultimately, it is realistically still Jeff Carollo's to lose, Joey, with 2 races to go.
He's used up his DNF, though. He's used up a week that's likely going to be his drop week in round 4. So if he has a bad week this week, he's going to be taking a points hit. Ross Sortino in second has had 2 bad weeks as well in round 2 and round 3. Eric Kulaga in third is in the best position. He hasn't had a single bad week. He's been in the top 10 every single race this season. He's in the best spot consistency-wise, but he really needs a big result here to get closer in contention.
Yeah, he's been in the top 10, but has only got 2 top 5s along the way. Carollo's had 4 top 5s, Sortino the 5 top 5, so that's how that's all played out. And of course, in the Drivers' Championship, things look quite close for some of the teams as well, and so therefore maybe it is no surprise to flick on over to the Team Championship and see some of those same names represented, albeit with the Vulture Motorsports North crew starting to break away now. 81 points clear of the SGE Esports crew, BNO Racing and the Seabow Racing team make up the rest of the top 4 now. 81 points, not mathematically going to be done and dusted for Vulture Motorsports North unless they get in the region of about a 100-point gap heading out of tonight. But realistically, Joey, that's something that they can be focusing on and trying to attain.
Yeah, it helps when you have two drivers in the top 3 in the championship when you're Vulture Motorsports North. That tends to add up to some pretty easy math and makes you feel pretty good in the team's championship. But it's not over. Crazy things can happen. Drivers can come together. Teammates like to hit each other sometimes. You can't give up until the final race is over.
Oh, what's Joey doing by trying to bring down the commentator's curse on some of these drivers who are out there on track for the qualifying session, and maybe a somewhat important qualifying session just from the perspective of staying out of danger on the opening lap, such an inviting run into the opening corner and a heavy braking zone. Who knows what trouble might be had. Before we focus our attention on the drivers, we focus our attention on those that make all of this possible, starting with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code. RaceBox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceBoxSimRacing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision5 coupon code. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. And the newest member of the Precision Racing League family, Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. We thank them all for making all of this possible and allowing some of these drivers to focus their attention on going fast, and fastest of them all for the time being, the Seabell Racing number 24. It's Artie Mercedes out of the final corner and in a bit of a train, and this is what you see with the SRT teammate up in front as well. Jared Keane in second, giving a tow to one of his counterparts. Some team games here, Joey, maybe not the worst idea in the world.
It's a very, very long front straight. You really need to take advantage of straight line speed, especially when you're in this fixed series. You can't play with the setups. You can't give yourself a lower downforce setup. You can't make the wing a little bit thinner through the air. You've got to play with whatever you're given on the default setup. So the only way you're going to get extra straight line speed is by getting a little bit of tow and maybe getting some help from a teammate like Jason Finch did behind one of his SRT teammates up there. Some other guys are hoping to align with each other. Luis Grillon and Artie Mercedes not aligned with each other on track, but they're close to each other on track at least.
And you'll notice that the number plate for Luis Grillon still not having the number in the right position, but on the side at least. The front has it right where it's meant to be stamped. El Peterson up to 12, Sully Saad up to a 7th spot. One thing you'll note as you come out of that left-hand downhill hairpin, you see the driver is running out quite wide, and well, Luis Grillon's going to show you as we ride on board with his Ferrari what is probably the most treacherous place on the opening lap. Surprisingly, the run into the chicane is Felix Feliz in the Porsche that now jumps his way to the top.
Big move from Felix. Got his first pole earlier this season. Couldn't quite deliver in race terms, but he's still looking for his first win in the PRL. Kevin Bergquist across the line. He's not going to find much improvement. He's going to stay down in 31st. His fellow Mercedes Michael Fowler up into the top 16 as well. Buck Hamilton into the top 10. There's still time on this track in the final 3 minutes here. Everybody's still gunning for pole because there's still a lot of time.
And if you take a look at the weather conditions, I think part of the reason why we're seeing the improvements is it's pretty cold on track, and so as the fuel continues to burn on off, this is where it's all playing out. That's a rather uncomfortable place to be, as I believe that's Nicholas Johnson attempting to leave the pit lane, but just not wanting to impede anyone on their runs in towards the opening corner, the heaviest of the braking zones around the lap. There's Tyler Graf, who switched over, of course, from the BMW M4 GT3 over to this Porsche 992 generation GT3 machine. It all went quite well for him back at Lebanon, all things considered.
Yeah, finished second, put a challenge on Jeff Carollo all day long, and right now he's got some kind of unfamiliar faces around him. If you look at the top 7, 0 wins this season. There's only 2 total wins in the PRL out of all these guys. Jared Keane won a couple of races last season. Other than that, Feliz, Mercedes, Graf, Mahler, Finch, Saad, all of those guys are looking for their first wins today. How incredible would that be if we get a guaranteed first-time winner in the top 7?
Well, Sully Saad's up to 3rd now. He's found even more speed. Peter Moller only found 7,000ths of a second, but it is an improvement in time, if not in position. So, yeah, these drivers, like you say, at the end of the season trying to make their names known, but that's the problem for someone like Eric Kulaga in a championship hunt. And, well, 20th and not improving in what will be his penultimate attempt in qualifying now, getting underway. Notice, by the way, Joey, look at that Joker helmet that he's got on his in-sim driver tire, whatever you want to call it.
I'm trying to see it through the windshield.
Oh, you missed a great shot into turn 1 then.
I did. He looks like he's got a tint on the windshield. I think that's road illegal. He's going to get a ticket out here.
Yeah, this is the problem. We don't have any cameras where I can just go into the car and show you the drivers. Because let's be honest, most driver helmets in iRacing aren't great. The helmet template also not great. I saw on social media today that art director said that he would love to tackle that in the future. Ross Sortino has tackled his way up to the top, though, of the qualifying order and by 0.2 of a second.
Remember the fun I was talking about, our judo, where the whole top 7 hadn't won a race yet this season? Now suddenly we've got our old buddy Ross 3 times on pole, 3 times a winner this season, 1 time on pole already. And he said, you know what, you can count me out for the first 19 minutes of a qualifying session, but I'm going to have a big lap in me at the end. And he may just spoil all the fun unless somebody else can get one final lap in here. There's less than a minute on the clock. You're either going to get one more shot or you're going to be done here very soon.
So the drivers that cross the line now can get another attempt. Douglas Corey to 14th. Sully Saad is just setting up for what will be his next and final attempt in the qualifying session. I think the same can be said for Peter Moller, although look at that consistency, and he's going to actually pull to the side. He's done and dusted in this qualifying session. Felix Feliz in 2nd, now down to the pit lane, so another driver thinking that it was best to just stay out of the troubles. Here comes Kulaga into turn number 1. Let's see if we can spot the helmet this time.
Looking closely. Okay, yes, that is beautiful. Good job, Eric. I'm proud of you. I mean, the qualifying's a little bit stinky. He's 12 spots lower than he normally is. His worst finish of the season is 8th, but he's a good racing driver. Doesn't tend to get involved in accidents, so look for him to be moving forward and maybe scaring some people out of the way.
Checkered flag is out. Does Tyler Graff improve? He does, but again, in only time, not in positions, and so he'll line up at best in the 6th spot. Can Jason Finch in the SRT Porsche run his way to the line? Interesting to see. Increases the distance almost by coming to the right-hand side of the track, and 8th, the outside of the 4th row, going to be the best for him. The B&O 514 is coming into pit lane. I must say, I quite like the B&O liveries that they have on their Ferraris.
Yeah, they've got the same shapes, just different colors, and we didn't mention these guys at all in the Teams Championship, but Ross Sortino P1, Trickett P9, they could kind of be a shocker to spice up the fight for 2nd place. They could jump SGE. And here's another Ferrari. Dale Peterson, always fast on the podium last week. Does he have anything on this final lap? He's got a couple thousandths, but needed a couple more thousandths. He's going to be unlucky 13th. What a poor guy.
That's not always a bad place to be. For Sully Saad, doesn't seem like he's going to improve. Maybe a mistake on that lap, given the margin of drop-off that was had. I think these drivers are all going to be tracking to practice a pit entry, although Eric Kulaga somewhat bailed from that. I don't think there's going to be an improvement by any means for him. And indeed, no, there isn't. It didn't end up counting, I do believe. So it was a lap that he completed, and if he had finished that lap slightly earlier, it might actually have jumped him up the timing order.
Well, unfortunately, the clock said otherwise. Kevin Santana, pretty good lap from him in the dying seconds up to P11. He actually messaged me before the race. He said he was thinking about Easter Island heads. If you turn the Fuji track map 90 degrees, it kind of looks like an Easter Island head. I don't really buy it. I don't see it from the above view here, and maybe that's why he's only 11th, because he's not really understanding the layout yet.
What I will say is I misread my timing screen. The best and the last columns got flipped around, and so Kulaga did not improve on that final attempt, just to clarify what happened there. By the way, oh, come on, I was about to draw some beautiful things on the screen with my beautiful yellow pen tool.
Karma.
Golf course. There's more golf courses over here. Apparently you go this way, there's even more golf courses. Fuji's motorsports heaven, but apparently it's also golfing heaven as well, Joey. Did you know?
Is that Mount Fuji over there, or is Mount Fuji on the other side?
It's a good question, actually. I don't know the geographic complexities of this Fuji region. What I do know is, even if rain is coming #soon on iRacing, it's not here soon enough to worry these drivers as they get their way down towards the starting grid. Shortened formation that for them to work their way through. It means we have a little bit of time to work our way through the starting grid as well. For Ross Sortino, an important pole position for him, the second of the season, as he tries to close a 24-point championship deficit to Jeff Carollo. Felix Feliz on the outside of the front row, with Artie Mercedes, Sully Saar, Jared Keane and Tyler Graf making up the rest of the top 6. Plenty of drivers searching for their first victories. That includes the likes of Peter Moller, who's alongside with Jason Finch on the 4th row. Andrew Trickett alongside Buck Hamilton to complete the top 10, with Kevin Santana in the Pink Pig Porsche alongside of Luis Grullon, someone that we would have thought would have been fighting for the championship slightly earlier in the season. Hasn't always played out the way that he would have wanted. Carollo and Peterson on the 7th row, and the championship leader having some work to do from unlucky 13th, as Joey pointed out. Douglas Corey, Michael Fowler, John Jones and Waldo Walden through your top 18, with Christopher Rhines and Eric Kulaga in that wonderful Joker helmet, completing and bookending your top 20. Jim Feliz, Ian Cabana, Jochen Bakker and Matthew Saint-Aubin through the rest of the top 24, with Sean Mulholland, Michael Kulaga, Colin McKenzie in a brand new livery for the Scuderia Lunatic Racing team. Neil Alexander, Dino Vella, Luke Davis, and then at the very back of the field, just a handful more times on the board for Bergquist, for Deweese, Johnson, and Morrison. Steven Martinez lines up at the very tail end of the monster grid that's getting ready to roll themselves around. What are your expectations, Joey, then as we get ready to get underway?
Well, you've got a very hungry field all staring at that guy on pole, which is going to be a lot of pressure for Ross Sortino. He's got some somewhat unfamiliar names around him that he's not really used to be racing with. He's got to hold on to that position, though, because if you look at the guys who he has been racing with this season, he's 12 spots ahead of Jeff Carollo. He's 19 spots ahead of Eric Kulaga. If things finish as they are right now, if the qualifying positions stay as their race finishing positions, this could put Ross Sortino much more comfortably actually in the championship fight to actually fight with Jeff Carollo next week at Watkins Glen.
And so these are some of the things that you will need to just be thinking about as the drivers get underway. We can quickly show you some of the driver webcams. Ignore Vincent Trepanier at the bottom all by himself. He's getting ready to go for the sprint series. But Jeff Carollo top left, we can ride over his shoulder. Matthew Saint-Aubin next to him. And then the foot cam with Eric Kulaga, and then in virtual reality, both Michael Fowler and Ian Cabana, one giving us the heart rate, one giving us the full view of the stream. And then alongside Jochen Bakker giving us a pretty interesting view of the Porsche, and now we know exactly who that is. Always great to see, Joey, exactly what happens behind the scenes.
I can't wait to read what's on Eric Kulaga's sign later today, and I hope there's not any shenanigans. We saw a crash before the start-finish line in the GTP LMP2 series earlier this season. Hopefully it doesn't happen here.
I have a feeling that Eric Kulaga's message is something to do about him wearing socks while he sim races. Get into the chat, let us know, are you team socks, are you team shoes, are you team bare feet? What are you on the side of, Joey?
I'm team socks. If you're team bare feet, please tune out. We don't want you here.
I think what that might be is potentially just drivers with the much more basic pedals than anything, but this is not the RaceSpot Feet channel. This is RaceSpotTV and the penultimate round of the Precision Racing League GT3 Fix series. Into the opening corner we will go, and are we going to be 4 wide behind? Not for the lead. It's Ross Sortino that will lead them down the hill into the opening corner. A bit of a tag there from the Pink Pig Porsche as we head on to the brakes, but all tidy, 2 by 2. They filter slightly further back. It's a single file formation for the top 3. It's allowed Andrew Trickett with a monster start to get alongside Jared Keane as we sweep up through Coca-Cola. Tyler Graf tucks into line behind. Andrew Trickett gets a pretty poor run over the curbs, and now in through the long run, right-hander of 100R. The drivers all filter into the middle sector.
Don't get distracted. Don't stare into the eyes of Mount Fuji. Look at Jeff Carollo in the blue and red car diving into the inside of the hairpin. He had to back out of that as there's a little bit of blinking right ahead of him. 3 wide with Grullon and a whole host of others. There's all sorts of calamity in the middle of the field, and you're coming into Calamity Corner here, the tightest hairpin on the track. This is where bumpers tend to be lost. You got to be especially careful on lap 1.
You can see the shot basically outside as, oh, that's Carollo. Carollo gets mixed up. He's down to 15th and got body slammed out of that chicane. Not sure what else has happened, but I do see a couple of cars stopped, including the likes of Kevin Santana, but that's all in the middle sector. Final sector sees them rise up towards what is a very important final corner. It's a almost 1.5 kilometer dash out of the final corner before you're back onto the brakes into turn number 1. And already, end of the opening lap, Ross Sortino has a 7/10 of a second advantage with 1 lap in the books.
And that's going to be very comfortable for Ross. 7/10. It's within the precipice of draft range. You're going to get a little bit of help down this long straight, but it's not going to do anything meaningful. You might make up like a 10th in that time. So he's very comfortable right now. He's survived lap 1. Everybody else in the back, though, is in a race of survival of their own. John Jones on the left side of your left side of the front straight in that highlighter yellow and blue car. He was missing a front bumper for a couple of seconds. Looked like that's been magically glued back on, but he's going to be struggling after that hairpin kerfluffle, and I think Dale Peterson is as well.
Colin McKenzie is down on pit lane. We saw the Ferrari for him streak down to the pit lane. Artie Mercedes had a moment on the timing screen, but it was just a technical issue more than anything. No danger there with that first lap now in the books. Remember, 35-minute race, 1 pit stop expected from the drivers, just more by virtue of how much fuel is in the tank than anything else with the restriction that they started with these fixed setups. Down in towards the middle sector they fly once more. This is 13th on back, excuse me, as Dale Peterson and Waldo Walden will go side by side. Jeff Carollo's just in front of this gaggle. Important that he doesn't get caught up with these drivers. He's got to try, though, and fight his way on forward and claw his way up into the top 10 with the points side by side. Porsches, Ferraris, BMWs, they're all fighting in this battle for 13.
Both drivers giving each other a ton of respect, a ton of room. Good stuff, but Ross Sortino from the lead has thrown it off the road. He's looped it around in the 3rd sector.
And we've seen that in the iRacing Fuji 8 hours. It's so easy to do. And that Ferrari, fortunately, still has all 4 corners of the car in a clean condition. Who, though, takes the point? Say hello to the lead. Artie Mercedes from, Felix Feliz from Artie Mercedes. And is that Sortino coming to pit lane?
No, I think that's his teammate Andrew Trickett. Not sure why Trickett's pitting, unless he got some damage as well. I don't think there's any way he'd be serving a drive-through. He's serving a drive-through already?
Jumping the start, maybe?
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. He did make up 5 spots before turn 1, so that may be the more likely option.
Well, okay. So now we've got a race on our hands, and you better believe that the top 3 are going to try and break away at the front. Ray Dominguez wants to let us know, by the way, that he races with a sock on his right foot and a shoe on his left foot. He just put an image
Deranged.
into the Precision Racing League chat. Yeah, deranged, I think, is an understatement here.
If any people from iRacing are listening, I know you guys have the ability to break out the band hammer. I think that's worthy.
I like the sound of that. Can we just put some penalties in session? Can we speak to Arnaud Genet about getting the race?
Ray just posted a photo of it, Arjuna.
Exactly.
He just posted a photo in the PRL Discord. This is terrible.
That's what I was saying. It's yes, he's making sure that everyone is aware of just how egregious of a faux pas he is making. I had to make sure I said that correctly because it was a crossword clue that I was doing slightly earlier. Let's go back, though, to these. Yeah, I know, Joey. I'm really down that crossword train now. It's a bit of a problem. Let's see if we can spool things back to the start of the race. Not to the green flag itself, because it might actually be quite fun to figure out what happened to the Andrew Trickett-driven Ferrari and if there was a jump start. But no, let's instead try and figure out what happened in that chaos of a chicane.
Yeah, I said it was Calamity Corner, and I was right. That's Jim Feliz behind, and then John Jones actually lost his front bumper just in the checkup. And then that's Kevin Santana spinning, Dale Peterson getting into the side of, I think, Jeff Carollo. There was just all sorts of chaos, and it's such a tight corner. It's such a tight hairpin. That's basically guaranteed to happen on lap 1. There's going to be a huge checkup. It's going to happen, and it caught many, many drivers by surprise. But here comes Felix Feliz for the lead.
Trying again down through turn number 1, and it's Artie Mercedes that's got around the outside the long way through, and it's the Seabow Racing car that takes the point. Oh, we've got some fighting in this one, you best believe, and the draft plays its part down the main straight, yes, but you can just see that with these fixed setups, BMW, Porsche, Ferrari, they're all relatively equal, even through the twistier stuff, down the hill into the brakes once more. Sortino's still very much in shouting distance from the lead in that 5th position.
Yeah, this is really good for Ross because they're slowing each other down. He's already made up about a second that he lost when he spun originally, and we know Sortino's a pretty good driver at fuel saving, so if he does get within even like a second and a half of the race lead, he may be able to make up a lot of that in the pits in fuel saving. He might be able to make up some positions off the track, so he's hoping that Felix Feliz and even Jared Keane can catch back up there to Artie Mercedes, keep running side by side, and keep slowing each other down, because that's how he's going to get back in here. He's not going to make 4 passes directly on track.
This is all running up towards that final corner once more, and so we'll have to keep an eye on it. But let's also jump on board with the replay. And oh, it's initially unsettled on the curb itself. That car was never comfortable.
No, it started instantly on the turn-in, and he did a good job of saving it, but at that point the tires were already heated up, the weight was already shifted as he was moving through the corner, and he got in the brakes again, and he just said, you know what, we're going to finish this spin off for you, we're going to finish looping you around. Feliz did a very good job of actually avoiding him and not T-boning him through there. Didn't quite get the lead, though, because Artie was right there ready to pounce out of the final corner.
That could have been a little bit worse. No move for the lead this time through, though, and that's an important thing just to keep in mind, because it seems as though Artie Mercedes had a bit more of an impressive run out of the final corner. What happened, though, a little bit further back, Eric Hulaga has to take avoiding action as up the inside comes Christopher Rines.
Oh, no.
And then Paul Kulaga's been really mixed up with everything. I wonder who Race Control is going to deem responsible here.
Well, judging by the fact that Rines just kept moving and moving and moving, I think it'll probably be ruled as a racing incident, more on Christopher for not necessarily leaving the room, and that was a dive for him in the first place as well. Here's Joachim Backer in the bright pink and yellow. That's Douglas Corey, making him a bowling pin.
And that was slightly unfortunate. What's happened, though, in the more recent time to poor Eric Hulaga, it's been such hectic stuff. We're still trying to scramble on through now into the opening corner. Oh, he's going to get dinged, and he spins himself around. And that means for Eric Hulaga, he's still running in 16th, yes, but I wonder what damage there is to the 66 machine.
And he might also be in danger because he got back on the throttle right into the path of Michael Fowler in the 54 Mercedes. May get dinged for that. And that was also, by the way, ironically, his brother Michael in that Ferrari who got spun directly in front of. So we could have had a beautiful family rivalry there.
I was always wondering if there was a familial relationship, and now that there is, I've got to wonder what's going to happen at the Christmas party later this year, or maybe Thanksgiving. Oh, Nicholas Johnson will give thanks to Sean Mulholland that unfortunately he dinged him around, and Steven Martinez loses out as well.
It's like there's a full moon at Fuji. It's all gone crazy in the first 10 minutes. We haven't had a second to look away because every single time we do, somebody else says, hey, you know what, guys? I want to join the party. I want to have my own replay. Let's see what happened here. It was already Nicholas Johnson getting a little bit oversteery off the corner. He was already losing it. Mulholland had nowhere to go. And poor old Steven Martinez just completely blind up over this blind corner. He just suddenly got a face full of black Porsche.
And that was a Mercedes that took a bounce over the sleeping policeman that in reality might have been rather uncomfortable on the spine. Not sure how it would have been if you were in motion, for example, as well. That would be quite fun. Oh, where indeed is the oil on the track? As it's now Jason Finch's in 13 that goes around. And something's happened to Eric Hulaga as well.
No.
Don't tell me he's done.
He's out. He's pulled it over, and he has brought it down pit lane. That may be the end of Eric Hulaga's championship hopes. If it's any solace for him, though, this will be his drop week. He's finally had a bad week, and he'll be able to go to the championship finale with all those top 10s he's had this season. Here's what happened to Finch first and foremost. Didn't get any help, just looped it around over the hairpin. Very easy to do, especially in a Porsche, and it was at a very inconvenient place where he couldn't recover in any safe place whatsoever.
Oh no, we saw this a bunch in the iRacing Fuji 8 hours, and it's hellacious, it's big, and yes, Eric Hulaga is unfortunately done for the day, and Joey is quite right in that this will, without a shadow of a doubt, be his drop round. Back to the front though, Mercedes, Feliz, Keen, now joined by Graf and Sortino, who's closed on the back of the 98 as well. Half a jink to the inside from Feliz. It's closed up to what effectively now has become a 9-car train at the front. And being realistic, Joey, fuel mileage. We haven't talked about it just so far today.
No, and there's a lot of fuel saving you can do. There's plenty of heavy braking zones, especially in the third sector when you're riding behind another car. You can lift off a little bit early and save a little bit of extra fuel. But I don't know if any of these guys are thinking about fuel saving right now, because Artie Mercedes has never won a race. Felix Feliz has never won a race. Jared Keen won 2 races last season, but hasn't won this season. Tyler Graf's never won a race. All these guys are just thinking about track position right now. And you saw it with that dive from Felix Feliz into turn 1. He was absolutely thinking about track position. He was not thinking about hanging back, saving fuel, and making the jump in the pits. He wants to make this move on track.
And there's a move from Sortino trying to slide on through, but Graf has the inside as they switch back out of the chicane and holds on. Ferrari back up the inside, and the B&O Racing car is given the room, and the number 20, back up into 4th position, and now has to try and close that deficit and get back into the draft now, importantly, of the top 3, but you'd expect that it might not be too much of an issue for him. Let's begin our cycle through of some of the driver webcams and trying to sync up with where they're all running on board with Ian Cabana, whose heart rate is running at 114 beats per minute, if you were curious. Looks up at the virtual mirror, has a bit of clean air behind him, but it's always interesting just to see in virtual reality what they see. Fortunately, Ian may not be aware that he's lost the entire front end of his Ferrari.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't see that from inside the car. I hope he's got some teammates that are at least watching along, and he almost lost a little bit more with Matthew Saint-Aubin spinning in front of him.
Well, I mean, this has been wild, hasn't it? And speaking of Matthew Saint-Aubin, say hello to maybe the most fabulous mustache on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, and I don't think that was actually him that lost it, unless it was.
No, it was.
Maybe it was. Okay, he doesn't look concerned about it at all. That's why I was confused. He's just trucking along.
I mean, he's got a pretty good view of what's happening in front. Are they going to go 3 wide? They might think about it.
Do it.
Do it. Come on. Oh, he's not listening. He's saving fuel instead.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense that Ian Cabana is very, very slow in a straight line as well, because he kind of has...
You mean that's not aerodynamic?
He has a hole in the front of his car, which means that every single part inside the car is suddenly a wing, and I don't think that's ideal for aerodynamics. But I'm no Adrian Newey.
I like the stash, by the way, on the front of Matthew Saint-Aubin's car. This is the view with Michael Fowler, who, again, is not just giving us the VR, but the full streaming perspective, the face cam, the room cam as well. Is that a room cam, or is that literally the camera on board with his virtual reality headset? I think that's what it is.
I think it is. It's like a fisheye cam on the left. The right is the face cam. I can read one word down there. It says Dad. I don't know what the second word says, and maybe I don't want to know what it says, but... I love it, and we should maximize the cameras more. Too many people are giving us one camera. I'm going to start begging for more. I'm not satisfied with one. I want multi-cams. I want every angle. We're going to make this a sitcom.
Well, I was going to say we could go and try and figure out what the message that Eric Kulaga had said was. Let's see if it's still up there. Yes, I race in $13 Aqua socks off Amazon. That's an asterisk, not a sponsor. It's meant to be a hashtag, not a sponsor, FYI.
He's taking them off, though.
Oh, well, he's not racing anymore, unfortunately. Poor guy, after that hellacious incident out of turn 3.
Those are the feet of a sad man.
Those are full hydraulic pedals, are they not?
I feel worried for him. He's got his toes underneath the side of the side of the table.
That's just
one thing goes wrong.
It's just how you often have these rigs up on what do you call them? Wheelie thingies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's what I would call them.
Wheelie thingies. It's very technical, very technical. What's happened to Peter Moller, by the way, as things continue now to spill out on track? I'm telling you, there's been an oil spill. There's no rain. It's actual oil. It was an interesting line on the run-through 100R. Down on corner entry, and while we saw Jason Finch lose it on the apex, this was just 2 tires on the grass.
You know what the problem there was, Arjuna?
No.
The wheelie thingies didn't work hard enough. Just loops it halfway through. This is why I'm glad I don't race in this series, because the one time I ever competed in a league race at Fuji, I did that about 3 different times, and that was in a Formula 3 car, which has more downforce than any of these cars have, is lighter than any of these cars are, and I still managed to spin it multiple times, and I think I got disqualified in that race too.
Are they called coasters? Is that what they're called?
Coaster? I don't know. Casters?
Casters, that's what they are. Yes, there you go. Joey's much more Englishy than me.
I thought we were casters.
No, if you call me a caster, Joey, I will kick you out of the commentary booth. We are commentators. We are not casters.
I'm a shoutcaster.
I mean, I do shout a lot, but anyway, Luis Grillon doesn't get past Buck Hamilton. His Seabow Racing counterpart, Douglas Corey's had another issue in that poor BMW. It's really been a difficult day for many, and it's going to be through the corner where Ross Sortino had his loop-de-loop, but this time it's just going to be on, I think, downshift, and the rear wheels you could see spin around, and a good avoiding action from the Porsche.
I like what he did there. He got on the throttle to try and give it a full 360 to loop it back around. Didn't work for him, though, because it's a GT3 car. The throttle, traction control, and the ABS don't really like you trying to do a full 360 donut style, but he tried his best. He got very scared there with the Porsche coming up, but no damage on that car. Just some very hot rear tires, and Mr. Douglas Corey gets to continue on as the 17th person to spin in that corner today.
Yeah, but the millionth person in history as well. He's just joined a very long and renowned list of drivers. On board with Jared Keane in the 222 running in 3rd position. Sortino, even though he has been able to get past Tyler Graf, has not been able to close back up, quite interestingly, to these drivers, although that is not a great exit from Felix Felice. I don't think Jared Keane's going to be able to take advantage, but right now, take a look at the timing screen, Seabow Racing fans, and eat your heart out. Artie Mercedes is breaking away at the front of the field.
It's a breakout race for him. It's the second time he's been on pole this season, 3rd time he's been on pole in the PRL in this series, and this could be a pretty big day for him if he can keep this going. Here's a dive from his teammate. Louis Scrouillon's not satisfied for P8. He knows he's out of the championship fight. He's had too much bad luck this season, but he's up to P7. And also, Arjuna, I saw in the background there, that was Eric Kulaga getting back out on track.
I think he realizes that he's got to try and salvage some points, and he'll just stay out of trouble. He is 4 laps down, 2 laps behind the next driver that is out there and running, and so that is going to be a bit of a consideration. I think I saw another driver peel their way down on towards the pit lane. Indeed, it's Drew DeWeese, and so with less than 20 minutes to go, the pit stop window has indeed opened, and so I think people in the YouTube chat have been made aware that there is not just the commentator's curse, there is such thing as the chat curse as well. Ryan O'Connor was cheering on Peter Moller in the Precision Academy counterparts. Unfortunately, as soon as Ryan said something, Peter Moller turns the car around.
Yeah, he's had too much good fortune. He almost won for the first time last night, but he couldn't keep that good fortune going. He had to do some karmic justice, and he had to make Peter Moller have a bad day. How dare you, Ryan? How dare you?
He did indeed. I must say, I'm feeling quite refreshed right now. It's been a long couple of weeks, and I had a wonderful meeting at work, Joey, about benefits for 2024, which did the wonderful thing of putting me straight to sleep for about 5 hours this afternoon. And I've got to say, it's a good thing that I got that sleep, because we've got to be awake and on our toes for this one, given A, how much has been spilling out on track, and B, because there is limited fuel saving that is going on. I do get the sense that our work is cut out to try and figure out who's got a bit of an advantage in this pit stop cycle.
It's an exciting work things. I got an email about my 401k the other day.
Did that put you to sleep as well?
I mean, I still don't even know what it is. I didn't take a personal finance class in high school or college, so I still have to figure that stuff out. My favorite joke, though, is people at work asked me to sign up for a 401k, and I said, I can't run that far. I love that joke.
No.
Deafening silence.
It was that bad. Tyler Graf's about to be passed, I think, by Sully Saad. Nope, not going to get on through. And interestingly, Ross Sortino's actually lost a little bit more time to the top 3, so maybe a slight mistake in through turn 1 has checked up Graf, and that Porsche now a little bit under fire. I must say that both those Porsches looking quite good. The Shore Esports livery, it's got this little... We've gone straight to livery watch in a 35-minute race. Boy, you can tell Arjuna had to do a very boring iRacing Fuji 8 hours this past weekend, but there's this like little texture on the side of the car. I can't quite tell what it is, but it looks really interesting.
I think it's just a gradient, but the thing that helps me with that car is Sully has the American flag on one side of the rear wing, and he has the Lebanese flag on the other side of the rear wing, which makes it very easy to differentiate this car from Jim Felice's car that looks almost exactly the same.
Yes, no, that is true. And the other Shore Esports machine has different colors entirely. So there's no confusion for us here in the commentary booth. So that makes things nice and simple. Different lines into turn 1, quite interestingly there between the 2 different drivers. Sully Saad does also have, by the way, a student driver label on the back of his car. I don't think I necessarily agree with that.
He's been a student for very long. He's probably on his PhD by now. But look at that car up ahead as well. Tyler Graf. He's literally done exactly what we need from every car. He said, you know, the base colors, you know, C, M, Y, I'm turning them all up, all the way to 100, and I'm putting them on the car.
I do quite like this livery as well. Tyler, in some of the other series that we commentate on him, will sometimes rotate across of different cars per week, and so we haven't seen that so far in the Precision Racing League. Might see that in the future. Mercedes continues to pull away in a BMW. Yes, it's not confusing at all. No, we've never actually commentated on RD Mercedes in a Mercedes before. But Felix Felice, Jared Keane find themselves increasingly getting closer and closer on the string that separates them. And as we come towards the line, I've got to assume we have had all but 19 cars down into the pit lane so far. Not far away from the drivers being forced, Joey, to come down to the box.
It's going to be perfect timing. We're going to see it right now. Felix Felice almost throws it off the road. Now would be a perfect time for him to come down pit lane and minimize his losses. But he says, no, I'm staying out. I'm going to fight with Jared Keane. No, he doesn't. He's going to come in, but you can't do that. He crossed over the white line. Felix Felice is going to get a penalty for that. That was an unsafe pit entry. He crossed the white line too late, and he's probably realized that instantly. That's an unsafe pit entry.
I haven't seen a black flag pop up for him. He may just have gotten away with it, but the problem was, regardless, he'd lost time in having to cut back underneath. And I get the sense Felix Felice lost about 2 seconds or so in that sequence, and it's going to cost him in the cycle. Jared Keane now has lost draft, though, of RD Mercedes, crucially, as we head off into this pit stop window. Have to keep an eye on where they all go from here. There, though, is the number 10 just waiting to be released from its spot in the box. Doesn't go up on the jacks, obviously. 12 seconds and counting. This is where we'd expect him to roll. It's a bit of a longer stop, all things considered. Maybe there is a penalty to be served.
Yeah, I've seen this exact thing happen in the PRL before. It happened when we were here in the GT4 series many seasons ago. There was a driver who didn't realize you have to commit before that solid white line starts, and they got a penalty for it. And I think that's exactly why we're seeing Felix Felice still sat in the pit box. 30 seconds now, 40 seconds. He panicked, he came in too late, and I think he forgot that there is a rule that you can't cross that solid white line. You have to enter very, very early, and you can't make late commitments like that.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, again, you can sometimes usually see in the simulator who has a black flag or not. He didn't have one, so maybe something else amiss there, and 60 seconds actually he's been sat there. He's not leaving pit lane anytime soon. Not seeing the top 2 drivers down to the pit lane, but I do get the sense that Ross Sortino is blending his way down what is not a simple pit entry by any means, but not the most complex pit entry. Nice and tidy, and immediately down into the slow lane and trying to find his way into the box.
He's got a wide open pit lane. Sully Sod behind him. Buck Hamilton's in as well. It's a lot of Ferraris, a lot of Porsches. But you've got the BMW still out there out front. We've seen Eric Kulaga extend that fuel tank quite a while many times this season. Maybe Artie's doing the same thing. Maybe the BMW is just that little bit nicer on fuel, and if it is, that's going to help him a lot here because he's already got a 2-second gap back to Jared Keane. He might make that even bigger if he's been good at saving fuel.
This fuel mileage game is quite interesting, given that we haven't really had the chance to see if there has been too much saving going on as a whole, but now just about 10 drivers yet to come down to the lane with just over 10 minutes still left to go. The gap between Mercedes and Keane has grown by about 2/10 since we saw Felix Felice dive down onto the lane. Felix has returned to the track, albeit 1 lap down, so he's going to be quite heartbroken and frustrated. But you can increasingly see that the speed is there. He's just waiting for that breakout where the consistency is matched up as well. Here's the onboard, though, with the 222 into the final sector and using the curb on the inside to rotate the car.
If it's any solace for Felix Felice, by the way, I think there was some trouble for Sully Sod as well. I think he's come afoul of the same rule. I think Luis Grullon had a long stop as well. I think all of these guys have done exactly the same thing. They've crossed that white line. You see RD Mercedes staying all the way to the right side of the track. That solid white line on the left, you can't cross that over. You have to enter very early, and both of our 2 leaders realize that, luckily, and are going to have safe pit entries.
And so now, the gap is to Ross Sortino. It was a 10.1 second pit stop for him, and I believe he is currently heading out of the final sector and getting ready to wind up to the top of the final corner. These drivers still yet to hit their marks in the pit box itself. Sortino's going to get a bit of a slingshot from the likes of Dino Vella. He'll be hoping that he doesn't get too compromised out of the final corner. Up on the jacks for RD Mercedes.
Interesting stuff. He drops down almost instantly, so it's not a very long stop. 9.5 for him, 8.9 for Keane. But look at how close Jared Keane is. That was almost a 2-second gap when they both came into the pits. It's absolutely nothing now as they file into turn 1, half a second separating the 2.
Ross Sortino going to be alongside with Tyler Graf as they exit on pit exit, but Graf slightly behind. No change up then for the top 4, with the exception of Felix Felice dropping back. They still could be a 4-horse race, but that would be predicated on mistakes, and Mercedes with a mistake on cold tires. Here comes Jared Keane in the 222, and 2 seconds, yes, now down to 2 car lengths at best.
And how early is he going to be able to pounce? Was not close enough to go for it into the hairpin there, but now he's got a chance into the real hairpin. Mercedes is wide again. He's very, very wide. Here comes Jared Keane. Is he going to send it to the insider? Is Mercedes going to defend? I think Artie's got just enough of a car length to be able to defend if he wants to. He's going to park it on the left side of the track, though, and Keane's not going to be late enough on the brakes to go for it this time.
I think what's happened here, the call to take 1 tire has offset the balance of that BMW. Jared Keane, I don't think, went up on the jacks, and he decided, I'm going to stick with the Pirelli tires underneath me to the end. Artie Mercedes has got to hope that balance resets, and it resets quick, as 8 minutes left on the clock. We've probably got 4 or 5 laps still left to run. It will all just depend on exactly how quick they will go, how much time they cost one another as they battle for this victory to the line. And with no championship really to play for these 2 drivers respectively, it is all just about the win and leaving Fuji with that checkered flag next to their name. The gap opens up. The BMW's been slightly quicker in a straight line. It's shown once again as they cross the line to complete lap 17.
This is an extremely stressful situation for Artie Mercedes. He's leading to potentially get his first win. The pit stop is over. The first stage of the race is over. Now all he has to do is keep it perfect, and he'll have his first win in the PRL. But that's not an easy thing to do. You've got a guy behind you who's won races before. You've got a guy behind him who's gonna be in the championship fight. You just got to keep that car pointed straight, make that BMW as wide as humanly possible, because you know that if you make one more mistake, these guys are not going to hold back. They are going to pounce. They want to steal your first win from you.
Fun thing is you look at the left side of the screen, and it's a BMW from a Porsche from a Ferrari. 3 different manufacturers, all on the podium as it stands right now, albeit there are a lot of Ferraris and Porsches that are slated around the field, and so not a surprise to see them up towards the front. Through the chicane, this time a little bit more tidy, you'd have to say, for Mercedes. So maybe the balance is now settled in. That 1 tire that we think got changed has been brought up to temperature and pressure and has now bedded itself in relative to the set. I'm trying to wonder, if you're going to change 1 tire, Joey, which tire would it be?
That's a good question, because there's a lot of right-hand corners at Fuji. It's counterclockwise, so I would imagine that the tire that gets used up the most is the front right. But it's unless you're getting a ton of oversteer through the final sector, then you might want to change one of the rear tires. But I have to imagine the front right's the one that's struggling the most. That's the one that's well, actually the front left, if I'm doing my centrifugal force correctly. The front left is going to get scraped up at turn 1 at 200R. The front left is going to be the tire that gets worn the most.
Artie Mercedes' new fastest lap just goes to show that even though the tires have gotten old, the speed may be still there on 3 corners of the car. His teammate Luis Grullon gets tagged around. Is that Sully Saad? It might be in the Porsche. And these are 2 drivers, of course, that had pit lane penalties, but somehow they both get away with it.
Yeah, they keep it pointed straight. It's going to be 4 more incident points, and I have to imagine that's going to be a big conversation. We ride on board with Luis here coming through the corner, and you see he definitely comes over just a little bit. Sully was not expecting that and wasn't going to lift after that. So two drivers that have already run into misfortune, in big misfortune now, and Andrew Trickett as well. I think he's just had to serve his 2nd drive through of the day.
And so he drops down outside of the top 20, although I think actually he just stopped in the pit box. So see what happens to him with 5 minutes left to go. Sortino's not closed in that B&O number 20 into a podium battle just yet. He'd be hoping that he has some time to close, but increasingly it looks as though Artie Mercedes in that BMW might just have this race in control. Although, never say never at this Fuji International Raceway, given that that straight is so long. Out of the final corner once more. King gets a decent run, but once again, Mercedes just stretches the advantage, putting the power down, and even the draft can't help the Porsche close as we build towards the line once more.
It's going to be 3 laps to go at the line. While these 2 fight for the lead, we do have to start thinking about the championship already. I know we don't want to start doing math until we have to next week, but we do have to think about it right now. Carollo and Sortino, right now, they're separated by 24 points in the championship. If they stay as they are, Neither of these guys are going to have their drop week as this week, so points will stay as they are. Sortino should have 19 points. Carollo, rather, should have 19 points over Sortino coming into the final race. He might lose a spot here, though, because notice that car has no front end, and he's got a very clean Porsche and Jim Feliz behind him who wants to take one more point away.
Yeah, this is, again, the parachute, effectively, right, where it's kind of slowing the car down in a straight line. I don't see a Fuji track map up there, and I'm guessing Jeff Carollo probably won't want memories of this particular race, but...
Maybe buy one to burn.
That's not a bad idea. The thing that still maybe surprises me more than confuses me, is fair to say, is, yeah, there's two different Circuit de Barcelona Catalunias up there, and as much as one of those is a better layout than the other, does he need a reminder of exactly how that track looks?
Maybe. I mean, maybe he ordered one, and the guy who shipped it to him just accidentally gave him two. Didn't realize they were stuck together. Maybe he gave it for a 2-in-1 special.
Maybe there's a deal. Yeah, you never know.
Because it's one guy, I think, or it's at least one guy, or it's two people, I think, who just run this small business that make those tracks. And Jeff has been a very big customer of theirs. I wonder if he's the #1 customer. I wonder if he's just keeping their business alive.
I'm just saying that if he wants to be the #1 person with track maps on RaceSpotTV, he's got a ways to go. So.
He's got to buy Lebanon first.
No, he needs, I'm talking like a good 60 track maps up there to be considered prolific.
Park B.
Yeah, at that point you do start needing alternate layouts and stuff, I guess. But yes, you need to be more prolific to be known as a track map king here on RaceSpotTV. I have no track maps behind me, so I'm not even in that battle because I don't want to get near it. 2 minutes to go means we've got 2 laps to play. Sortino's dropped off. It is down to these two. Jared Keane is holding close, but Joey, not close enough.
Not close enough. And just for the record, I have a stain on my wall that kind of looks like Dover. Does that count?
No. You need more.
Darn.
You need more stains is clearly what you need.
I'll Sharpie around it.
You know, you have to stain your wall a bit more, you know?
I might have to. I mean, it wasn't my fault that the wall was stained. It came this way, but it was very conveniently placed that if I turn my camera 90 degrees next time, maybe tomorrow night I'll have a fitting Dover track map behind me, because that's where we're racing tomorrow in the PRL.
In the PRL Grand National Series, right? As it's now called?
Yes.
I wanted to make sure I got it correct.
Grand. I'm not excited for it, because me and Dover do not get along, but I was surprised at Chicagoland last week. Things actually went well. Not as well as Artie Mercedes is going, though.
Are you not a fan of Miles the Monster?
I like him. I like the state of Delaware. I like concrete, but I don't like having to save tires.
Okay, so what it sounds like is Miles the Monster doesn't like you.
No.
Fortunately, no monsters at Fuji. Artie Mercedes has one more lap to hold on to what will be a very, very emotional victory, you'd have to say, as Jared Keane continues to put the pressure on, slightly further behind as well. Tyler Groff has closed up to Ross Sortino. That could be a fight for the final step of the podium.
There could be if Tyler wants to get a little bit aggressive. He got his first podium of the season last week. Could he go for another one? Could he get aggressive on one of the championship contenders? I don't know if he'll be able to. It's about 7/10 back here. He's going to need an absolutely insane final lap. He's going to need a mistake out of Sortino, and one of those things may happen, but I don't think the mistake from Sortino is going to happen. He's a guy who knows his boundaries. He knows when he's got a 7/10 margin, he doesn't really need to push on the final lap, and he'll be pretty comfortable. And twice that margin goes to Artie Mercedes. He can especially back off and just survive through the final sector, and he's got his first win.
Yeah, last lap by, Ross Sortino was a bit slow, so I'm not sure if the tires were used quite heavily in the early stages, but the pace did drop off. Out of chicane for the final time. It's been a rough and tumble day for so many, but Mercedes, Keane were able to keep out of the trouble, and ultimately that's what set them on this course to their positions at the front. And Artie Mercedes very much never looked like once they got to the lead they were going to be stopped, did they, Joey?
No, Artie's been in control. He was on pole earlier this season at Sebring, fought with his teammate, but you could see him being careful through that final sector. He didn't want to spin it and throw it away. Now he's got nothing but straight line.
In the penultimate round of 2023, Artie Mercedes breaks through. It's a victory in the PRL GT3 Fix Series here under the shadow of Mount Fuji, and the Seabao Racing team will be delighted that the number 24 has made the switch over to the GT3 Fix Series count. Keen in second, Sortino grabs third, just in front of Tyler Groff at the end of the day. But ultimately, implications for the championship up and down through the field. Jeff Carollo, though, will not be passed by Jim Feliz, and maybe there'll be a tip of the hat there to Jim Feliz, a bit of thank you for Carollo being able to hold on to some championship points. Some fights up and down through the field as drivers work their way to the line. The best part is, Joey, we've had one race at Fuji, we've got one more still left to come.
As if we haven't had enough Fuji over the last week, we've got even more coming here. It's gonna be a battle to the start-finish line here with Dino Vella and Matthew St. Aubin. They're going a little bit Indy 500 across the line. It's not really doing much help. Vella's gonna hang on to P13, but Artie Mercedes, Arjuna, the 4th winner this season. All 4 of those winners, Ross Sortino, Luis Grullon, Jeff Carollo, and Artie Mercedes, had never won a race before this season. We're making new names.
Interesting, and so it means that some drivers will now hopefully give us the chance to talk with them, and maybe we'll need to dial in some help as well. So drivers all crossed the line. Let's see if we can grab a look at the race results and run you down through how the 35 drivers ended up finishing as they worked their way back towards the line and to the pit lane. Artie Mercedes only 8/10 clear, yes, but ultimately that margin does not illustrate the level of control and the maturity that was displayed in the drive to get in front of Jared Keenan to hold on through the rest of the race. Sortino, after dropping it from the lead, is able to bounce back to 3rd and close on the championship leader, while Tyler Groff and Buck Hamilton make up the rest of your top 5. Peter Moller 6th after his little spin around of his own. Waldo Walden down in 7th, with Jeff Carollo, Jim Feliz, and Dale Peterson making up the rest of the top 10. 11th for Jason Finch, 12th for Michael Kulaga, while Dino Vella, Matthew St. Aubin, Ian Cabana, Michael Fowler, and then Sully Saad, Luis Grullon, Drew DeWeese, and Steven Martinez through the rest of the top 20, with a handful of drivers getting caught out by what is a rather interesting pit entry and the requirements that iRacing mandates for all. It was Felix Feliz in 21st, one of a handful of cars still left on the leading lap. As could be said for Andrew Trickett, Kevin Berquist, and Luke Davis, after Andrew Trickett, of course, jumped the start, we believe, and had a drive-through penalty to serve in the early stages. It was Colin McKenzie 1 lap down, 2 laps down for Neil Alexander and for John Jones, while David Morse, Joachim Backer, and then Douglas Corey begin to get us in towards the graveyard of machines. Also included in that pile, Eric Kulaga, unfortunately in the 66, in what will be his drop round for the championship fight. Sean Mulholland, Nicholas Johnson, and then Kevin Santana and Christopher Rhines make up the rest of the top 35. And of course, fastest lap, as mentioned at the bottom of the screen, went the way of the fastest driver of them all as well, Artie Mercedes in that BMW. Don't see your race winner standing by just yet, so instead Joey Tebbins going to slide on down to the second step of the podium and have a chat with Jared Keen in the 222.
Indeed I am. Jared Keen coming home P2 today after a battle with Artie all day long. What more did you need to maybe get by that very wide BMW?
I have no idea. I think I'd like for you guys to tell me. I chased him, and tell you what, I don't know. I felt like I could maybe force an error in the 3rd sector. The Porsche is so good there relative to the other cars, and I've the whole race, you know that Ross is coming too. He spun early and he had pace on everybody, it seemed, and so I didn't want to take any chances for the first half of the race. Stay in the draft, stay clean, don't bunch up, so that we can try and get away from that guy. He's so fast.
So 1 round to go. Watkins Glen, you won 2 races last season. Still looking for that first win this season. Is it going to happen in the championship round?
I'm okay at Watkins, but everybody's so good at Watkins. Everybody knows the track so well. So let's hope so. It's been too long since I talked to you.
It has been. I've been missing your voice, Jared, but I wish you good luck next week, and hopefully I'll get to talk to you 2 weeks in a row. Hopefully
I concur.
Jared Keen coming home in P2. His initials may be JK, but I'm not just kidding. I love that guy. But we've also got our championship 2nd place guy right now. 3rd place in the race, Ross Sortino. You made up some points on Jeff Carollo again today. How are you feeling going into the championship finale next week?
It's going to be a tough one. Kind of a little bit disappointed at myself. I had a great qualifying on pole, and then on lap 2 with cold tires, I spun out. But I managed to kind of stay in there, still ahead of Jeff in this race. So just chipping away. Anything can happen in the last race. So going to give it my all and see what happens.
So I'm no mathematician, but I imagine the gap's going to be about 18, 19 points at Watkins Glen next week. How comfortable are you there, and how comfortable are you to potentially dominate that race to get as many points as possible over Jeff?
No, it's definitely a track I enjoy. Hopefully we can be close to the front and again just get maximum points, and then the rest is out of my hands.
Well, Ross, congrats on another podium, and we wish you good luck in the championship round next week.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Ross Sortino sorting it out in P3. No Artie Mercedes, unfortunately, Arjuna, but he did have his old buddy Ray Dominguez cheering him on in the chat. Apparently he's a pupil of Mr. Dominguez, so I'm sure he's very proud.
Interesting race for sure for these drivers, but yeah, it's Watkins Glen up next. A track that many of these drivers, I'm sure, will know, but now it's about racing it in a smart way. Let's be real, Joey. It's an interesting place to crown a champion, and a place where drivers will just be hoping to stay out of trouble.
It's a place where a lot of trouble can happen. I remember when we last went here in the opening round of the previous season, there was all sorts of chaos. There was crashes between the race leaders. There were all sorts of off tracks, and we had somewhat of a surprise winner with John Jones getting his first win. Could maybe that happen next week? Could we see Mr. Jones come back in his full glory in that Ferrari that's been so fast? I'm booking it now, Arjuna. John Jones is winning next week.
Interesting. You've gone bold with your prediction. I will say
I've gone bold.
I was right with my prediction at Fuji this weekend for the iRacing Fuji 8 hours, but that's only because that I made my prediction 4 hours or so into the race, which meant that I had a much better understanding for how things were going to go. And what an interesting season it has been. I mean, yes, we closed things out at Watkins Glen, but we added in, Circuit Lebanon for the first time, went back to Circuit Jerez in what was a trio of tight and twisty races. Joey, it's been a really interesting campaign so far, and it's really cool to see just how close the championship still is.
And I'm already thinking about next season. I think the calendar's already been released, so I'm actually going to look over at
Tentatively,
the
yes, but I think there's a few races where we might have some substitutions because of the iRacing calendar going to tracks where there aren't enough pit stalls.
Yeah, there's some of the old classics where they'll put some of the free tracks like Okayama and Alton Park on the calendar, and then those get replaced by new tracks. So if we do get some of those new tracks announced in the next update, we should have some exciting new venues to go in both this series and the Sprint Series next season.
But just to be clear, we actually have no idea what's happening next season, so don't quote us on anything just yet. But when do signups open for new members to join, Joey?
Signups are open right now for returning members, and signups open for new members November 19th. So next week, 5 days from now, get signed up. Plenty of spots open.
Yes, again, Precision Racing League current members get priority. They already get their chance to slide their names into the hats, and it'll be interesting to see who shakes up for the start of 2024. And again, as mentioned, next week will be the final race of 2023. These drivers get a good 6 or so weeks off. They'll get a preseason race, yes, in December, but they'll be back in action first week of January for 2024 Season 1. That's still all yet to come. We still have to keep our attention on Mount Fuji and the Fuji International Speedway, though. It's time to return. Put 5 more minutes onto the clock. Give the drivers the ability to dial in the setups and, well, unleash the Precision Racing League GT3 Sprint Series. This is one where the quality has never been so high, but it's all been about staying out of trouble, being consistent, and, well, looking to see if Vincent Trepigny can defend his championship. Fuji's been interesting already. We've seen that drivers can slip on up. We'll have to see if it will happen again for these drivers as they get themselves ready to go for the very identical schedule that we've just been talking about. So let's not spend too much time talking about this, because let's be real, there's not much interesting about talking about the same thing over and over again. Let's talk about the fact that Joey, 3 points, yes, repeat that, 3 points, split Andrew Caron, Guillaume Levesque, and Vincent Trepigny with 2 races to run.
I am going to repeat that. 3 points. And you know what else is 3 points? The difference between first and second. So that's what could instantly flip this around. If they finish in the opposite direction, if it's Vincent over Guillaume over Andrew today, the championship, theoretically, not counting bonus points, could be totally tied going into next week. We do have to count the 1 point for pole position and the 1 point for fastest lap. But unless there's absolute calamity up front, these guys have been up front all season. We're going to see a ridiculously close championship next week, and I'm very, very excited. I want to see a championship decided on track, and that's exactly the ticket to do it.
Let's not forget that last season, Vincent Trepanier and Karl Modov had a battle to the very final laps at Phillip Island, and we will be hoping to see something similar as well. So, it's Lease Pure Sims, it's Lease Pure Sims, Lease SimCity, Lease, the top 5 in terms of the teams that the drivers are representing. And so when you factor all of that in, maybe it is not a surprise to see those 3 names at the top: Lease Pure Sims, SimCity Racing, and Lease Esports Purple. The margins may be slightly bigger. 59 points separate Lease Pure Sims from the SimCity Racing crew, and then a further 4 points back to Lease Esports Purple. But being realistic, it's about strength in numbers going into the final 2 rounds of the season.
And Lease have done a very good job of spreading their load pretty wide. Lease and Pure Sims, that's Andrew Carone, Guillaume Levesque, and Daniel Ferguson. So they've had 3 cars to play with. Lease Esports Purple is Vincent Trepanier, Charles-Etienne Boucher, and I believe that's it. I don't believe they have a 3rd car on that team. And Lease Esports Cyan as well. That's Josiah Farrow and Simon Theriault. So they've got a lot of numbers, they've got a lot of teams, and they've scored a lot of points. SimCity Racing has a pretty solid number as well. They've got 3 strong drivers with Crisp and Puptel and Zavadil. They were missing Zavadil last week, so they didn't get some big points. And that's why their championship challenge may be scuppered unless they have a very big week this week.
Yes, is Dalton Zavadil Mr. Z or Mr. Z, though? That's the question.
It's definitely because he's American, so it's got to be Mr. Z.
Yes, but that's wrong.
Mr. Z.
Much like
is he
using
American or is he Canadian? I feel like I should probably get that right.
But Canadians still say Z, don't they?
I'm 99%. Yes, he's American. He's from Colorado.
Okay.
He's American. Mr. Z.
Interesting. I was wondering if Canadians, like, much how they say A differently. I can't say it properly, but I was wondering if they did something similar when it came.
I don't know what you're talking about.
There you go. You can do the accent much better than me. You've had the benefit of being exposed to it just that little bit more. Looking from up above as the drivers once again out there for an important qualifying session. You'd have to assume all things considered. In terms of the fastest times right now is Vincent Trepanier, Andrew Carone, and Guillaume Levesque. Not in the order that Joey just mentioned would potentially flip them into an equal tie at the top of the championship heading into next round in the season, but it just goes to show that there's a reason why they're 1, 2, and 3 in the points, Joey.
Yeah, and Vincent Trepanier has... It's odd to call him the surprise, considering he won the championship last season, but in those first 2 rounds, he was not very strong. He was not as competitive as his teammates, and he admitted to that. He said the level of the series has gone up much higher this season. He needed to up his skill level and get a little bit faster. And he did exactly that. He's won races on pace. He fuel saved better than anybody else at Lebanon last week and beat Guillaume Levesque hand-to-hand, and he's just put it on pole even faster now. He is showing up his 2 more experienced teammates.
It's a wonderful lap as well to be able to stick it onto the board. He resets the pit lane. We'll have time to roll back around, and this is one of the key differences with the Fix and the Open Setup Series. These drivers, of course, can put in less fuel to get underway. Now, Charles-Etienne Boucher, Mr. Boucle d'Or, as Alessandro Torchia goes up to 6th. This is an interesting tactic in qualifying.
Doing the weevies, getting as much heat as possible into the tires, but not sure how effective that's going to be. He's going to pull over here, get Diego Aire through. All the heat he would have put in the tires doing all the swerves, he's just instantly lost by stopping on track here and letting everybody by, but that may be deliberate. He may be doing some fun things with the tires.
Or is this just Mr. Boucle d'Or not enjoying Fuji? I don't understand these memes from the young kids anymore,
You're too
Joey.
old,
Yeah,
elderly.
Educate me.
Crotchety. That means that the average Fuji enjoyer is a Giga Chad. It means it's good. It means he loves Fuji.
So that means that if you like Fuji, you're good, right?
Yes.
Okay. And if you don't
You
like
need me
Fuji,
to say it louder for you, Grandpa?
yes, please.
Did you get it the first time?
And so if you don't like Fuji, you are therefore not cool and not part of the fun club.
Correct. So me, but
Okay,
we'll
good.
ignore that.
Just making
I gotta
sure.
I gotta be in Boucle d'Or's good books. I gotta get in one of those Nissan Sentras.
Interesting. Kevin Simpson in his McLaren to the line. I see Ray Dominguez, Rapid Ray behind, although Rapid Ray's down in 25th, and that's not going to be an improvement.
Yeah, he's got to show up his apprentice now. You can't have the master finishing worse than the apprentice. But also, if you think about last season, remember Ray Dominguez winning all those races in the Fix series and moving up to this series. It's just kind of demonstrative of how much more difficult the level is up here. than in the Fix Series. It's sort of a pro-am split, so to speak. You build your craft in the Fix Series, and eventually you're forced into this series with the open setups and the better drivers, and if you're lucky, if you're like Michael Terrafino last week, you get a top 5 some weeks. Some other weeks are going to be more of a struggle.
Lots of drivers seemingly just building up and preparing for laps. It's a wonderful livery, I must say, for Miguel Angel Fonseca. Now, Miguel's not technically from Japan, but he has always run liveries reminiscent of this region of the world. And so as Dominic Olivier up into 5th, I'm quite curious to see what... Oh, Miguel's running for this week. Although through the power of anime, locked it down quite impressively initially before it spun around on him, ultimately with no recourse to save it.
He's still losing it, trying to loop it back around. But I don't know if we're actually going to see Miguel Angel Fonseca back in this series next season, because I know he's signed up for Wednesday nights. He's going to do the truck series next season in the PRL, because he wants to try some ovals for the first time, and I'm excited about that.
It's the fun thing about the PRL, isn't it? You can kind of go and do whatever you want.
Yeah. I did just see, though, he is back for the sprint series, and he is signing up for the truck series as well, so he's got a double feature on
PRL.
Exactly. Can't get enough.
What are you thinking about racing next year, Joey? Where should people go if they want to avoid you is the question.
Well, I think they're going to be lucky, because I'd give it a 99% chance I won't be racing anything next season. So you can join any series. You're safe from now. You won't see me in the Grand National Series next season, I don't think, unless there's an absolute shock when iRacing releases the calendar and they show off some incredible tracks that I absolutely want to race. I have a feeling the booth calls me back on Wednesday nights.
Interesting. You're going to try and slide your way in. Yeah, this is the thing. PRL commentary spots now are as competitive as getting into the series themselves. So see how it goes. Marc-Andre Deschardin improves in time, but not in position, I believe. He's still down there in 23rd, as these will be the final attempts for drivers beginning now with less than a minute left in the session. There's Michael Terrafino in the short competitions, number 94. Now, have they still left the wireframe on his car, or have they turned this one off finally?
No, I think that's something of the past. I think he's been good lately.
This is the car that livery.
Yes, this is the car that looks like a McLaren.
I see what you mean.
It's very rectangular at the front and the back.
And the way it's the way the sides work as well. It's very McLaren-y, isn't it? Ethan the Bassmaster!
Wow.
And the Bassmaster's in a Ford!
The Bassmaster, he's missed the last couple of weeks. I've missed his Scottish bro, but he's back. Wow, I love it.
Oh, I'm so delighted to see the Ford back, as much as I can't wait to bury that car into oblivion when we get the new Ford Mustang. Jeremy Gonzalez, no improvement. The 22 behind as well does not find any improvement for Boris Ovando, and so now the checkered flag is out. Let's see where things will stack on up. Guillaume Levesque no longer inside the top 3. He needs to find almost a 10th on his qualifying time, and he will not improve. The 888 down on the inside of row 3.
That's very unfortunate for Guillaume Levesque. That's more points he's going to lose in the championship. He's currently 3rd out of his teammates. No, he's 2nd. He's 1 point behind Andrew Carone, but he will be 3rd if things stay as they are going into next week, and that is not a position you want to be in. So look for him to get aggressive and maybe start thinking strategy very early when the race comes around.
So Deschardin up to 23rd position. Here's Martin Crisp in his SimCity Racing liveried machine. Finds just over a 10th of a second. Finds more. Breaks into the 38.9s and into 8th spot. Impressive qualifying there in the closing stages. Who else is going to find some improvement? Definitely not Michael Terrafino. He's down on pit lane. Vincent Trepigny is also edging towards the pit lane, but he doesn't need to improve. He's already on pole, but by 52 thousandths of a second, Joey.
He's been an absolute pole master this season. That's his 3rd pole. He's had 2 wins. This would be his 3rd win. But this is gonna be tough stuff. He's got a teammate, Andrew Carone, behind him. Simon Theriault up in 3rd as well. He's really shown himself up here. That's a great lap from him. Anybody could win this race, and there's going to be no team orders because Trepigny and Carone are both fighting for that driver's championship.
Don't forget you can follow along with live timing and scoring by going to PRL.RaceSpotTV as the drivers run their way to the line to finish up the qualifying session. No improvement from Andrew Carone on his final attempt. He was relatively close, though, to his best lap time. Just goes to show the consistency that we know these drivers are capable of putting on display. While we wait for the qualifying session to come to a close, let's well, take a look at these driver webcams where, well, Bouclador's in the top right with his interesting message to all. He's alongside Vincent Trepanier, who stepped away from his rig. Kwok Nin has also stepped away from his rig. You got Miguel Angel Fonseca with his 8 hours of practice in the iRacing Fuji 8 hours, and he's still slow, but still rocking the guitars in the background. And what Pokemon has Ted Lowendick got in his background? Have you figured that out?
That's the purple people eater.
Is that there is actually a purple people eater?
It's the one-eyed, one-horn flying purple people eater.
You can tell I'm not very educated on culture.
No, you didn't know the Giga Chad. You didn't know everyone's favorite Halloween song. Where'd you go to school, Arjuna? We got to send you back.
You know my favorite Halloween song?
Is it riboflavin flavored, non-carbonated, polyunsaturated blood?
No, it's spooky, scary skeleton.
Okay, that is good. That is good.
Distractions. Anyway, ready to go to the grid where the drivers are lining up. Let's run you down through the starting grid and see where all the Leafs machines have ended up. It's a trio of them that line up at the front, and it's the Bassmaster that interrupts. It's Trepanier from Corone and Terrio. 1, 2, and 3, and the Ford returns and puts itself right up into the mix. Guillaume Levesque inside of Dominic Olivier on the third row of the starting grid, with Levesque having some work to do to work his way on forward. Kevin Simpson and then Martin Crisp behind them in 7th and 8th positions, with Alessandro Torchio inside of Juan Malagon to bookend the top 10. It will be Boris Savando alongside Nani Tavares in 11th and 12th positions, with 13th going the way of Ryan Pucktel, 14th going the way of Jeremy Gonzalez. We saw the slight issue there in qualifying for Miguel Angel Fonseca. He's still 15th on the board alongside Mr. Bouclador, Charles-Etienne Boucher, who might like Fuji, maybe not fast in qualifying. Fernando Yaquez, Josiah Farrow, 17th and 18th, with Rapid Ray and Kwok Nin making up the rest of your top 20. It will be Michael Terrafino and then Diego Ere on the 11th row of the grid, with Marc-Andre Deschardins, Patrick Bachelard, and then finally Ted Lowendick, Rafael Franco, Joseph Carnes, Faris Nasser, and Lance Loomis rounding out the field. I did note there is no second Purple People Eater machine here today, and so as the drivers get ready to roll themselves around for the shortened formation lap, let's go and keep Ted Lowendick company for a few moments, Joey, and get his thoughts on Fuji.
Why not? Ted, where's Nick?
Where's Nick? He said his wife had something to do with work later, so he's stuck watching the kid tonight.
That's fun. What are you going to do to keep yourself occupied?
Signal the one-eyed, one-horn flying purple.
That's exactly what I wanted you to say, because Arjuna didn't know what that was.
He doesn't know what it is?
No, I think he went to school on the moon or something.
You lost the Purple People Eater behind you, though, Ted.
Yeah, it was making my face look really weird, so I didn't want to become
that
a
hasn't
one-eyed,
changed.
one-horn flying purple. That's true. That is true.
We'll let you go to focus, Ted. Thanks for letting us interrupt you once again just before we get underway. Always fun to be able to have the chat. Pace car's ready to peel off and away. 40 minutes on the clock. Joey, throwing you on the spot. Who comes out on top?
Bassmaster. It's not going to happen. I just want it to happen. I want to see a Ford win in this series.
It would be the popular pick, wouldn't it? That would be for sure. But it's the least, machine at the front. I think that's the only way to dub it at this point. That gets ready to look towards the green flag to get us underway for the penultimate round of the 2023 Season 4 Precision Racing League GT3 Sprint Series. Good tidy start through the field, green flag drops, and 2x2 we rumble. No real drop of the flag between the teammates. Guillaume Levesque not hanging around. The 888 to the inside, and straight on through to third position. One of the Ferraris tries to follow him on through as they dive down through the opening corner. 3 wide works momentarily. The Bassmaster back up to third position. And as we flick our way through Coca-Cola, the left-hander, it's Ford versus Mercedes through turn 3.
And Ethan Bass, is he going to hold him off? Yes, he is. Ethan Bass in the Ford up into third, making Guillaume Levesque very frustrated and making Vincent Trepanier very happy as he and Andrew Corone have both survived that first lap. Corone, though, ahead of Trepanier, now the championship leader, but there they go.
That's a big send from Dominic Olivier. He pushed Simon Terrio on through. Guillaume Levesque saw it coming, gave the room, gave the respect, and tucked back into line. Crucially, though, back down to 6th, and now swarmed as we head to the chicane for the first time of asking.
And this was Calamity Corner in the Fix series. It could be the same here. Everybody checking up, and there it is. Right on cue, Olivier gets turned around in front of the entire field. He's going to become a third chicane in a corner that's already made of 2 chicanes. and somehow everybody's made it through. Well done, everybody.
Crucially there, Guillaume Levesque, I think, stayed out of the initial incident, stayed out of trouble, and got on through in 4th position. Yes, he's lost the draft to Caron, to Trepigny, and to Bass, but crucially, no damage on the front of the Mercedes, and out of the final corner. No such dramas in terms of needing to come down to the pit lane at the end of the opening lap. The margin, though, relatively close between the top two. Ethan Bass hoping that he can stay with them at the front in the Ford that's so old that it's got a stick sticking up the floor for you to change gear rather than paddles on the side of the wheel. As Levesque looks behind him, you have to go all the way back to Simpson and Tavares, 12th and 13th position, to see a move on track. Little jink to the inside in front of them as well.
Looking like a Japanese maglev train here as everybody was just single file, but now they've decided to kick things off, and there goes Charles-Etienne Boucher around. Diego Ares spun, Simpson is spun, and he's having a whale of a time because it's fun to be a bowling pin sometimes.
And
Trepigny's off as well.
Oh goodness, the championship leader! And with big damage to the front of the 87.
That's done. That's him done. He's going to be able to get back out on track, but look at him fall down the order. 15, 16, 17. He's going to be able to keep going. He might be able to get a top 10 out of things like Jeff Carollo did, but that's the most he's going to be able to ask for. And you can see under braking that car's damaged. How about a free spot for him, though, as Josiah Farrow spins right in front of him.
I correct myself. I meant defending champion, not points leader when it came to the 87. Caron, the points leader, now leads and has got some advantage up towards the front. It's still helter-skelter into the chicane in the heart of the pack. Rapid Ray is alongside the likes of Joseph Carnes, Vincent Trepigny, of course, trying to recover his way back to pit lane. But wow, what a frantic opening couple of laps once again. We've had another spinner. It's Marc-Andre Desjardins off into the grass. Back towards the line. Gonzalez down to 10th. Light flash from Ethan Bass, but he's lost the draft to Andrew Caron, who now leads by 2.3 seconds.
I think right now he's saying, please, for the love of Fuji, please, Andrew Caron, spin like your teammate and have something go wrong, because he's not getting the lead any other way. Look at him. He's setting the fastest lap, but Ethan's probably dumbfounded right now. How on earth am I second? And now how can I transfer this into a win?
How are we going to go 3 wide? Like that, with someone backing out. Jeremy Gonzalez through. Yaquez holds on. Tavares doesn't slide his way on forward. Turn 1 really is the primary passing opportunity. It's Ted Lowendick alongside with Michael Terrafino. Lowendick's already up 10 positions so far today.
That's what you can get if you stay out of trouble. Bachelard ahead of him, up 12 as well. But Ted's going to hang back through this very fast corner. He's going to think about switching back Terrafino through 200R here. It's almost 2 corners. It's almost like an oval where you have to treat it as 2 corners. He's going to be too far back. He's not going to get the run he needs into the hairpin to go for that move on Terrafino. But he's up 10 spots. Rafael Franco behind is up 10 spots as well. It helps to keep your car clean and not spin on lap 1 or lap 2. It always helps.
Joey, I just want to make sure we're looking at the same track map. Are you calling that corner what, 200R?
300R.
Well, 300R is the kink before the chicane. 100R is the long right-hander.
So I've been. Oh, I see.
Yes,
so I've been doubling it.
Corner numbers are very weird. Rather, corner names.
100R is the long one.
Yes, and apparently, by the way, that's 2 corners. It's turn 4 and turn 5.
Yeah, like okay, so
it's like an oval.
I've been doubling the number.
Oh, Yaquez! Another car slips up. We haven't even taken a look at the replays, but when we do, it's going to be a long sequence, I've got to assume.
Yeah, that's what, the 10th spin we've seen so far, the 10th crash. We almost had another one there as he pulled onto the racing line, but I think he got away with it. That's I'm going to try and count the total here. From Jaquez down, Olivier, Trepigny, Dominguez, Boucher, Quacnin, Farrow, Desjardins, Fonseca, Simpson. That's at least 10 cars I just named there.
Shall we start the merry-go-round of replays then?
The carousel of entertainment. Let's do it.
That's a better way, the carousel of entertainment. Here we go. So we'll start with the 413, that wonderfully liveried Miguel Angel Fonseca car. This is the opening lap in towards the tricky hairpin, and just gets tagged from behind, and I've got to assume his car was pretty damaged at that point.
Yeah, that was one of the lease Mercedeses. I think that was Charles-Etienne Boucher who got into a little bit of trouble. and maybe got his karmic justice a little bit later. And yeah, Miguel was able to keep on going, but he's since retired from the race. Here's Martin Crisp in the Ferrari. This was when everybody was just checking up and getting into each other, and it was at the head of the train when Trepanier, I believe, or Thierio rather, gets into the back of Olivier, and everybody in the field has to go zipper style and get by him.
Let's see if... I'm just trying to figure out... Yeah, that is the Porsche that does the tagging there. Race Control's going to have an interesting review of this one, you'd have to assume, and poor Arnaud Genet is going to be kept quite busy. If you kept looking then into turn one, this is where Mr. Bouclador was laughing at what happened.
Yeah, we were riding on board with him, and then he just got absolutely bowling balled.
Oh!
Oh no, I think, is that Diego Aire that came onto the scene?
I mean, all you could really do in situations like that is laugh. So I appreciate Bouclador's happy thoughts in the moment rather than what could have been.
Sheesh. Poor Kevin Simpson. That McLaren, we haven't given it enough credit. We've been telling about Ethan Bass doing a great job in the old Ferrari. Kevin Simpson had the old McLaren in the top 10, and he got bowling balled, and poor old Vincent Trepanier bowling balled himself through Coca-Cola into 100R, not 200R.
Yes, although it is two corners, so maybe you could double it. And ooh, Josiah Farah got tagged by Rapid Ray there, and the carousel just continues. We're going on, we're going on, we're going on. Marc-Andre Desjardins mounts the curb and then spins himself around, and we're still not done. What happens to Joseph Carnes?
Let's see what's going to happen to Mr. Carnes. Ray Dominguez behind him. Did he give him any help? Doesn't look like it. Poor old Joe Carnes just looping it around, and Ray, for good measure, gets to hop the sausage curbs and get some damage for his own car.
And then Fernando Yaquez on the subsequent lap. Yes, we're still going through the replays. In through the final corner. Don't tell me Seabao Racing Team contact here. Nope, just the rear end.
Yep, and Nane Tavares says, thank you very much, teammate. I'll take your position. And that's the end of the carousel of entertainment for now. But I don't think we're done, because Ethan Bass has absolutely lost touch with Andrew Carone. No surprise, considering Andrew is driving a GT3 car and Ethan is driving a microwave. But he's got a very, very long train of cars behind him that he's got to hold back for the next 30 minutes.
Yeah, so look at this. Look, I'll break out the yellow pen as well. That is so old school that young kids don't even know what that is.
No, I barely even know what that is.
You probably think that's a handbrake.
I don't know how to drive manual in real life.
Do you not?
No, I never learned.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, in America, you have to pay more to get a manual car, and then you usually have to suffer what is some of the worst traffic in the world, by which I mean bad drivers, not actually congestion, because congestion's bad everywhere. It's just American drivers, at least from my experience, pretty bad.
I was in New Jersey over the weekend. You want to talk about bad drivers? You'll fear for your life.
New Jersey is bad, but if you're talking fear your life, Atlanta. There is nowhere else where they use the public highways as racetracks during the day.
Well,
you know what? I'm being hyperbolic.
Philadelphia would probably try that, but they at least like to wait until the nighttime to take over the streets.
Oh no, they do that during the day in Atlanta. I was there for Prodigy Week with the other PRL, and driving up towards Dawsonville, and I was just reminded I'm doing a decent amount above the speed limit, but a reasonable amount above the speed limit. I'm going with the flow of traffic, and I'm in a Ford Mustang. I'm feeling cool. And then I get the Dodge Challengers flying past me at 100, 110 miles an hour, and I go, yeah, I'm not that cool, I'm not that crazy either.
If you ever go up to Watkins Glen, be careful, because the speed limit on the New York state highways is 55, and there are police officers just parked by the trees, and they want to get you for going 74 and a 55.
I had to drive up to Rochester a couple of years ago. We're talking 7 years ago now, and yes, I remember that. Here's the look to the inside, though. Finally, can the Mercedes relieve itself of this cork in the bottle? Ethan Bass slides backwards to third. Guillaume Levesque up to second, but now crucially 4.3 seconds off the back of Andrew Carone in that number 27, and that's a margin that 30 minutes left to go. With the quality of the drivers that we have, it's probably not being overturned.
No, the story of the race now is going to be how far, or rather how not far, does Ethan Bass fall? How defensive can he be? Can he hold back Thierio? Can he hold back Ovando? Can he hold back Torquio? Because that's going to be his challenge now. Second place is going to be driving off into the distance, and Ethan is he's going to have a huge journey ahead of him, because he's He's got a teammate of the 2 guys up front behind him. He wants to do well for the team. He doesn't want this Ford in front of him. And he's going to be just as aggressive as Guillaume was if he gets the chance.
The Ford does sound quite nice, I'll give it that.
It does.
Doesn't have much else going for it.
It's got about 2 pixels in the interior texture, but it's got character.
We had one of these, by the way, in the iRacing Fuji 8 Hours. It didn't do very
Ethan
well.
in it?
No, I don't think he was. It was the Paceworks esports team. We had a Precision Racing esports car in there. Dominic Olivier got involved in some incidents with some various teams and various drivers.
That never happens.
Never happened. I'll say this, though. We're going to Watkins Glen in a week's time. We've just come off the second round of the IMSA Esports Global Championship. It's a good thing that these are GT3 cars and not GTPs, because, oh boy, that inner loop is Russian roulette when it comes to GTPs, and I think there's basically about a 50% chance of dying every single lap.
Yeah, we learned that in the GTP LMP2 series earlier this season. I think it was like 7 cars that finished in GTP at the end of the race. And
out of how many?
I think it was like 15, but 2 of them finished with 3 wheels on the final lap because they crashed. Bradley Holly finished that race in the top 10 with half a car.
Nice.
That's the race of attrition that it was.
Nice. Yeah, prototypes of Watkins Glen are pretty rough with that inside curve, so we're not so concerned about that. The only thing that I am maybe a little bit concerned about is the run up through the S's on the opening lap. Given that we went 3 wide and 4 wide into turn 1 here, I hope they all realize that you can't do that at Watkins Glen, and you've got to be a little bit more restrained and relaxed on the opening lap and go from there.
Well, you missed the 1 week, Arjuna, when we went 3 and 4 wide into turn 1 at Interlagos. That was beautiful. I hope they do it again.
Do you really want to see it again, though?
Yes, I want to see Calamity, but I also just want to see that so we can get a good screenshot again, because they were legitimately 3 wide just all the way back through the field. It was like the Indy 500 in a turn 1. It was great.
And of course, they just had to wait for the 1 week I wasn't around, didn't they?
Yep.
Yeah,
And you missed the tussling with Dominic Olivier and
know!
Manuel Troncoso.
I've got to send a message to Manuel and say, you're doing me dirty. You're missing the rounds where I'm actually here, and then you show up when I'm not here. I feel insulted. Hashtag not actually insulted, to be clear.
I have to give credit, though, to Andrew Carone and Guillaume Levesque. They were part of the class of guys who compete at the highest level of sim racing that came in this season to compete a little bit more in league competition. They've been around all season long because they're fighting for the championship. There were a few other guys who came in at the start of the season who we were very excited about, but they've had other commitments. They've had to do some other things over the course of the season, haven't been able to stick around, but I've loved seeing Andrew Carone and Guillaume Levesque back every single week, and I don't know if they'll be back next season. I think they'll be very busy, but I like them that they're here now, and hopefully it's at least 1 season a year that we get to see these guys back.
Yeah, but don't let them off the hook here. Guillaume Levesque's not giving us his webcam today. Unacceptable.
Maybe that's because I called him Mega Guy last week.
Yeah, some of your nicknames work better than others. We know that.
Yeah, I'd like more webcams. The field size has fallen down a little bit more since the start of the season. I think we started with like 50 cars. We've got 29 in the field today, so just by that number, that means we have less webcams. But there's been some people who have dropped off. There's been some people who have given us webcams who aren't giving them anymore.
Exactly.
And I'm gonna personally call them out.
Like Guillaume Levesque. Make sure that we call him out. Simon Terrier, by the way, will be next up to try and pass the Bassmaster in the Ford, who did switch away from the Ford earlier this season and so has taken a points penalty to switch back to it. But I think, not really fighting for a championship, just wants to enjoy maybe a bit of a swan song because, yeah, the Ford Mustang GTD, I don't know when it's coming to iRacing, but it's going to hit the track in the real world in a couple of months' time in competition over at Daytona. It looks pretty sick. They're making a road-going version of it that's unrestricted, that basically is going to challenge the Porsche GT3 RS as well, which is bonkers to think about. And if anyone from Ford is listening, please put me on the list for one of them, and we can discuss payment at a later date. I can pay in commentary, probably not in monies, because that's about $300,000, Joey. Ugh.
That's nothing to you.
I wish it was nothing to me, because I would be all over that. Oh,
Drop a clean 300K.
You know I'm a Porsche fanboy,
Yes.
right? Yeah. If I had 300K to drop, I would not buy a Porsche GT3 RS. I would buy the Ford Mustang GTD.
Well, you should ask new Porsche GTP driver Ben Keating for an auto loan. I hear he does those.
Is Ben Keating in a GTP next year?
Yes, they got announced today. He's in the GTP at Daytona.
Yeah, this is the problem with the way that with the way that IMSA entry lists work in the real world. The entry list was being announced today, so guess what that meant? All the driver announcements happened either yesterday or this morning, so it was quite hard to figure out what was going to be happening. So he's going to be the only bronze driver then, isn't he, in an LMDH car?
The only one ever. First one.
Yeah, it won't be the last, I'm pretty sure, because that GTP is such an attractive proposition for running even as a private team, albeit with just a handful of the manufacturers really committed, and this is where my love for Porsche is going to shine once more. Of course, Porsche are amongst the most supportive of their customer teams and have been amongst the earliest to roll them out, whereas Ferrari, as an example, not trying to throw Ferrari under the bus, it's just to show the level of operation that you need to be able to commit to your customers. They've said that they don't think they can support the customers just yet, and so it's not something that's going to be on the immediate horizon for them to focus their way in on. As we focus back in on Andrew Carone with 22 minutes to go. Pit stop window about to open because Dominic Olivier has just dived down to the lane rather early, all things considered, but gets himself out of traffic. Joey, our replay highlight spiel, whatever you want to call it, we're going to call it the Carousel of Calamity now, is what our chat has decided.
Yeah, that's what Chris Beats said. I like the Carousel of Entertainment, though. That's a tribute to the Hank and Jim radio network with the Tommy Edison showgram. That's what got me into music when I was like 16. When I first started listening to real music, they had the Carousel of Entertainment on the radio station. So any chance I get to give them a shout out,
nice.
I'll do so.
Oh, not nice.
Oh no, poor old Michael.
Chicane, and watch the rejoin. Cy Farah gets on through without too much drama. Now, Michael Terrafino is fighting with, guess who? The Purple People Eater machine, I believe. Let's see what happens.
Oh dear. All good through the first part.
Ted.
Not so good through the second part. Little bit of overlap, and Terrafino gets turned around. We've been talking a lot about karma today, and that's just kind of reversed. Ted got bullied out of the way by Gary Brown last week, and now he's going to be the driver who does a little bit of punching himself.
Ooh, and who's that?
Well, it's Lance Loomis.
Ooh, okay, so already a lap down, and Terrafino, I think, is going to come down to the pit lane after heating up the tires. A good way, actually, to cool your tires down. It's an impressive strategy to be on thinking on your feet and come up with that solution so quickly. So Terrio still behind the Bassmaster as we focus back in on that shot of Mount Fuji with the golf courses all around this amazing track. Joey, are you going to be at Indy next year, month of May?
I mean, I would say probably not, but I wish, I hope so. Maybe, potentially. I don't know, probably not, but maybe.
I think you're going to have to look into ways to getting yourself out there. And what you should do is, if you're there on the Friday, you should join, hopefully, me, Lewis McLean, and a handful of other people playing golf while the cars are on track for Fast Friday.
It's an attractive proposition.
You only have to join us for the 4 holes in the infield. You can enjoy practice. But you know, I've been on Fast Friday now, or not Fast Friday, the Carb Day practice, rather, for the last couple of years. And so, you know, we've seen all that we really can see. You see cars going around in circles enough, it becomes the same after a while. And so we decided we're going to play golf next year. While they're going 200 miles an hour, let's see if we can hit the ball 200 miles an hour as well.
I'll see what I can do. I'll see what kind of strings I can pull. I want to go to this Fuji golf course. It's right next to the mountain. It's just on the hill next to the track. So I don't know if it's an outskirt mountain or if it's just because Fuji it's behind the grandstand. The shot you just saw. It's off to the left here, and that's the golf course right there on the outskirts.
Poor penmanship, but yes, golf. This has become a golf channel, if you aren't aware.
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the mountain though, so it's not top golf. It's bottom golf.
Well, it means that you've got some elevation change that comes into play. Well, it must be an interesting golf course, and as was pointed out to me subsequently, you can actually kind of see it. There's another golf course there. If we break down the timing tower, more golf, just golf everywhere. iRacing needs to build a golf simulator is what I have just decided.
I should probably know more about golf because our friends at the Golf Channel, half of their operations are in Stamford, Connecticut, half of them are in Orlando, Florida. I need to learn something from those guys.
Golf Channel's actually really entertaining. Nowhere else can you talk in a monotone voice and be entertaining.
I've never golfed before.
Have you never golfed before?
No, well, not real golf. I've mini golfed.
You've mini golf. Ah, I see. We'll make a golfer out of you yet, Joey.
It's gonna happen. I don't think I'm old enough for it yet, but one day.
You say that, but I was a little kid playing golf, and there is a bit of an overlap when it comes to motorsport and golf. I don't know what it is. I do know what it is, actually, to be clear. Money. To be in motorsport, you usually need money. To be a golfist, you usually need money as well. And so they go hand in hand together.
Yes. I do actually want to say something about the race, because I did kind of forget there was a race happening here. But Ethan Bass is slower through the corners in that musky old Ford. Tyrio is faster through the corners, but the muscle of that Ford is faster in a straight line, and that's why this battle has gone nowhere. That's why we're talking about golf, because Ethan Bass is fast in the fast places and slow in the slow places, and that's a ticket to not being able to overtake if you're the car behind.
Yes, but remember, this is an open setup series. In the fixed setup series, drivers could have the excuse. Racing drivers always love their excuses, right? That, oh, my setup didn't give me the amount of downforce that I needed through the corners, or maybe I was a rock in a straight line. Is this a case where Ethan Bass has recognized that if I'm fast in a straight line, if I can get off the corners pretty decently, I can frustrate most drivers, and Simon Theriault was maybe a bit more cautious on his setup and has got a bit more wing in the back end of the car, and I think Boris Savando's been slowly closing and closing and closing.
Well, look at how close Tyrio gets here, through the final sector, through the place where you need a car that handles well. There's different levels of camber through every corner, there's different radii, there's different speeds. Through the final corner, Tyrio is going to be within a tenth of a second of Ethan Bass. He's going to be within a bumper's distance of him. If there was a corner right here, he might actually be able to go for an overtake, but now that they get onto this long front straight, you can literally see Ethan Bass pulling away here, even in the draft. He just can't do anything. That Ford's just too fast. It's got the downforce of a banana.
Oh, that line is struck again. Where did you even think of that one?
Bananas are slippery.
I mean, they are, yes. But isn't being slippery actually technically good for downforce?
I don't think so.
I mean, if you're slippery, it means that the air can flow over you. You know what I mean? Being slippery means that you're sleek, doesn't it?
I suppose. This is why I couldn't get my PhD. Everything I say falls apart under defense.
Just like the banana does, apparently, as well.
Yeah.
Poor Michael Terrafino. We're still waiting for the pit stop window to realistically open for the majority of the drivers, but I think he's unfortunately found himself in the wars and back on pit lane before he could even find himself focusing on the pit lane entry. Oh, that's high. That's a high-speed one.
Where even is that? That's so far off the track, I don't even recognize where he lost it.
Here
we go.
It's of 100R.
Yeah, it's 100R, not 200R, and just big wall, big damage, big done. And that's it's an odd place to lose it. It's like halfway through the corner, and then he tried to overcorrect it and just sent it all the way over the asphalt, which barely slowed him down at all.
Yep. And I mean, there's no gravel there, but that's what gravel would do if it was placed there. That's track design coming forward to you, and one of those little things to think about. It's always interesting actually thinking about some of these safety aspects. One of my teammates at Powerslide Motorsports is dad works now is basically setting up safety for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. He used to do similar sort of job, similar sort of a job for IndyCar, but understanding some of the things that they think about and what we don't have to think about, making our life so much easier. Okay, I'm going to come up with a hypothesis here, Joey. Is part of the reason why that Porsche is just a little bit slower, you can kind of see it, is there damage on the left-hand side, right-hand side of the car, left-hand side as we look backwards?
There is a little bit. Remember, he turned Dominic Olivier around at the hairpin on lap 1, so that is why that damage is there. But I don't know if that's enough damage to really be slowing him down in a straight line. Maybe it's adding the smallest of miles per hour difference, but I think it is just mostly that Porsche going for a little bit more downforce. But look at this side by side. Ferrari versus Ferrari. Bachelard is trying to hold on to this incredible race forward he's had.
It's Bachelard, Lowendick, Trepigny, and then Boucher. I don't think you necessarily would have expected them in this order with 14 minutes to go. A switch to the inside from the purple people-eating machine, and Lowendick trying to eat his way up into 12th position, but Trepigny with the front end of the Porsche still missing. Looking hungry, looking aggressive, not as aggressive as Lowendick is, trying to get to the inside of the chicane, and the Ferrari will have a lunge. All as Charles-Etienne Boucher backs out of it, and they roll their way single file through the corner. Bachelard a little wide.
Ted's going to be thinking, did I die and wake up in Quebec City? Because I've got a Bachelard, a Trepigny, and a Boucher around me. He's woken up in a French-Canadian sandwich here, and he's just trying to survive. But he's peeking the nose to the inside of Bachelard through the third sector. There's none of these corners where you can actually make a move unless you're fully alongside. So he's just trying to put the fear in the eyes of Bachelard. He knows he's probably a little bit faster, just didn't quite have the luck in qualifying. And now you're going to see that purple people leader Ferrari in the full draft of Bachelard. No difference in downforce levels and slipperiness in a straight line between these two. It's all going to come down to the draft if Ted can get that little bit closer and send a dive into turn 1.
See, now I feel a little bit sad that I didn't have my 3 zooms set up for today, and I only have the 2 zooms set up for today. It's going to be Lowendick to the inside of Bachelard, all as Boucher closes on his least counterpart, Dominguez, in the mix as well. Oh, Lowendick almost ran himself on the nose of Bachelard, allows the opportunity for Trepigny to close the margin up in towards Coca-Cola at turn 3, but nothing doing, no dice there, and the average Fuji enjoyer enjoying this action as well.
And don't forget, Vincent Trepigny is missing the front bumper of that Porsche. He's going Jeff Carollo mode today. Despite the fact that he hit the wall at about 100 miles per hour, he's still actually going pretty strong, and I don't even think a top 10 is out of, well, a top 10's probably out of the question, but a top 12 isn't out of the question. If he can get by Bachelard, if he can get by Ted Lowendick, he's going to be uncomfortable in the championship. I think I can say that much. He's probably going to be about 10 or 12 points back from Andrew Carone when the championship finale comes around, but that's not unbeatable. If Carone gets into trouble next week and finishes 8th or 7th or somewhere down there, that puts Vincent Trepigny back in championship contention. So he just needs every point he can get here to make his life as sweet as possible next week.
Let me give you an idea. Does Trepigny actually not feel so discomfortable with this car because it drives quite like the bus that he's used to?
I mean, I don't know. That would be... I'm going to ask him about that. If he somehow drives into the top 3 by the end of today, I'm going to ask him, does the lack of downforce in the bus, does the understeer of the bus apply to iRacing? Because maybe there's a little bit of subconscious there.
I've got to assume that part of it helps, but the one thing that maybe doesn't help is the fact that, you know, the bus has got the wider wheel with its slightly different angle that you hold it at versus what Vincent probably has set up in his sim rig. Although maybe his sim rig is set up in an approximation of the driving position he has while he's behind the wheel of the bus, because that's what's most comfortable to him. Who knows? What I do know is I heard the klaxon going off for pit lane entry. Ethan Bastel frustrates Simon Terrio, Boris Ovando. Surely, if you're Terrio or Ovando, you've got to think about an undercut right now, and you've got to make it happen sooner rather than later.
And it's about that time. 30 minutes done, 10 minutes left to go. I wouldn't be surprised to maybe even see Terrio come in this lap, get out of being held up by Bass. Boris Ovando maybe doing the same and coming down just to get out of the Ford's wake, get some clean air on the nose, and just turn a qualifying lap and maybe jump Ethan that way. Ethan's also going to be worse on fuel than either of these two guys. That Ford is very, very thirsty on fuel. He's done an incredible job of defensive driving, but I don't know if even he has been able to do the fuel saving he really needs to do to hold these guys back. It may be a foregone conclusion that both of these spots are gone. Boris is coming in, but he just crossed the white line as well. I don't know if he crossed it late enough for it to matter.
I think he did it early enough that it doesn't matter, but we'll have to now just worry about that. That looks like maybe Martin Crisp was thinking about coming to pit lane, but bailed out of it. So Ovando followed in by Malagon and Gonzalez. Everyone else will stay on out there. And let's cycle back over to Bachelard, to Trepigny, to Boucher, Dominguez, and now Kwoknin as well, who's joined the hunt and instantly headed down to the pit lane because he recognizes that these drivers might still continue fighting, and he doesn't want to be a part of it. Bachelard, though, holds position into turn 1.
Boris Ovando has gotten a penalty. You see the time ticking up there. He crossed the solid white line. You can't do that anywhere, or else you get a 30-second stop and hold or something, and he can't do anything right now. He's stuck, and I think Simon Thierry's throwing it off the road further ahead as well.
He has indeed. It's down at the hairpin, so fortunately it's just maybe damage to the Pride and to the tires rather than to the car, like we saw with Trepidate earlier. But these are crucial mistakes as we enter into the pit stop window. There's your race leader. Andrew Carone in the 27. 5.3 seconds clear, has continued just slowly and steadily building that advantage up towards the front. And while he's had no trouble, it's been a bit more trouble for the 89 as he tried to get past Ethan Bass. A long way around. Contact was made.
Yep, a little bit of contact between the two of them. Let's see, did he turn in or did Bass understeer? I mean, Bass did miss the apex a little bit, but that looks like it may be judged a racing incident. Let's look at it from on board Ethan. Coming into the hairpin, he did miss the corner, so that's definitely arguably on him. But he's not going to worry too much about the position because Thierry spun in that collision. Ovando got a penalty. The two guys who were directly behind Ethan Bass have been taken out, and suddenly all that fuel that he may have wasted, he doesn't have to worry about that anymore.
So to pit lane comes everyone but Martin Crisp in the SimCity Racing 957. So doing some fuel saving has paid out some dividends for him. We'll have to see if it works out in terms of strategy. 6.7 for Carone. What's it going to be for Levesque? 6.6. So pretty short stops, all things considered. And crucially into clean air as well for Andrew Carone. Charles-Étienne Boucher, the driver that rolls through turn 1 in front of him. There's the 888 out of pit lane as well.
And Ethan Bass comes out ahead of Alessandro Torchio. For as fuel-thirsty as that car was, it was a similar stop to Carone and Leveik. 6.9 seconds for Bass, 6.6, 6.7 for Leveik and Carone. Ethan Bass has a podium on lock right now, and he's only got Alessandro Torchio behind him to worry about. This is all come up Ethan Bass. He may get a penalty afterwards for contact with Thierry, but for now, he's comfortable in third.
What did you just say?
I said he may get a penalty, maybe?
No. Before that. Or after, one of the two.
Comfortable in third?
Podium on lock.
Oh, yeah.
Commentator's curse. I'm just saying. It's on you. It's on you if something happens. Puctel and Malagon, 9th and 10th positions, down through that hairpin section. Porsche versus Porsche, running out wide. Goes Malagon. Puctel slams the door shut, though, on him, and now will cover the inside up in towards that chicane. Seabow Racing 06 with its fake number trying to go the long way around, but holding on to the spot. Going to be the tighter apex for Puctel that allows them to switch it back and hold on for the time being. Nani Tavares behind them as well, and all as Martin Crisp makes that trip down to the pit lane.
Now we're going to cycle things out to get the actual order here, unless Charles-Étienne Boucher is able to go one more lap around. If he's able to extend that fuel even more, he may be able to still go around, but no, he's come down pit lane as well. Carone's going to take over the race lead. Leveik second, Bass third, and these are going to be critical spots at the end of the top 10 between Puctel and Malagon. I don't know if they're going to get out ahead of Crisp. Probably not. He's just coming out of pit lane now. They may come out ahead of Boucher, though.
So there's the look at the merge. So Martin Crisp with a 6.6 second pit stop is going to find himself back out in 5th position, and alongside with Jeremy Gonzalez. That's a look to the inside of turn 1 for them. It's a block as well for Puctel as the SimCity Racing pair very much having to fight in these closing 6 minutes of the race. And down out of the opening corner, Crisp on the hunt to try and get past Gonzalez, and Puctel trying to hold off the charge from behind. Charles-Étienne Boucher, courtesy of the pit stop, has dropped down to 14th position and emerged alongside with Ted Lowendick and with Kwokne, and crucially Vincent Trepidate up there in 12th spot and with some clean air behind.
Here we go, time to break out the double box. Ted and Boucher side by side. They're still side by side coming into 100R. The inside is going to be the optimal place, though. And good old Charles-Étienne Boucher gets ahead of Ted Lowendick comfortably. Kwokne behind is going to try and take advantage. He's going to send it to the inside in the hairpin on the top. Ted is getting swallowed, and Kwokne's up into P14.
And below you see Crisp and Gonzalez having swapped around, fighting pretty close as well. No matter where you look in this PRL GT3 Sprint Series, you always tend to find action around on track. And here's the onboard with the Purple People leaders down to the outside into the chicane. Porsche versus Ferrari. Porsche holds on for now. Crisp has gotten passed by Gonzalez as we've taken a look away from their fighting as well. But this is amazing. What it is doing is bringing Bachelard and Dominguez back into the mix.
And it's a battle of the teeth. It's the original Rexy car from Vaporworks versus the Purple People Eaters with Ted. And it looks like Ted's going to win out through the middle sector. Quack in virtual reality, trying to slot back in line, making sure he doesn't get himself within the pressure of Bachelard and even Ray Dominguez behind. Off the final corner, he's got a decent exit. And now it's a test of the straight line speed. Who's going to be faster down this very, very long front straight? Porsche or Ferrari, Ted or Quack? Looks like Ted's going to be that little bit faster, but Quack's going to be there into turn 1 in the draft.
There's a bit of a swig there of a drink for Ted, just taking a bit of a break and relaxing on what is the one opportunity that you have to do so into turn 1. Nin gonna have a late lunge to the inside. Lowendick gives him the space and down out of the corner as it cambers back in. The Porsche is through into 14th position and now will slide back to the inside just to cover off any further looks to potentially slide back on through. This is Malagon, Puctel, and Tavares. So much action going on, and we have to take a look at a replay. What happened to Martin Crisp in his fight with Jeremy Gonzalez?
Ooh, little bit of overlap there. There was already a little bit of contact, and then coming through the final corner, they did it again, and Martin Crisp ended up coming out the worst there. Contact with the side of Dominic Olivier, and that's going to be him able to get going again. He was lucky he didn't bounce over the sausage curbs, but that was just full contact sports car racing for a couple of corners, and you don't often get away with that in the third sector at Fuji.
And you got to be careful when you're pinched on the inside as well. I think that's part of the factors that come into mind. So, top and bottom, fight for 7th, the fight for 14th as well. No matter where you look, drivers fighting hard in what is, again, Joey, the penultimate round of 2023.
The penultimate round indeed. We're going to do some championship calculations in these final laps as well, but all these guys, they might not be fighting for the championship, but they are fighting for those last couple of spots in the top 10 for the likes of Malagon and Puctel and even Gonsalves. They all want every last point they can get because it's a pretty proud thing to say you finished in the top 10 over the full season. And Malagon's sitting on the outside by a few points. Gonsalves is sitting on the outside by 2 points. They want every last spot they can get, so they can come into next season with that little bit of confidence and maybe put their name into the eyes of some people as a competitor they're going to have to beat.
You can see that Nin and Lowendick are doing battle once again out of the first corner, and I tell you what, Lowendick's done an amazing job to be able to slide alongside and get in front before Coca-Cola. That's a fight that's intensifying, and all as the clock ticks away, we're down into the final 2 minutes of this one, and Andrew Carone has recognized that. He's not pushing too hard with the traffic by any means. He's lost about 2 seconds this lap, but it doesn't really matter. He's still 5.5 seconds clear of the 888 Guillaume Levesque behind, and out of the final corner, getting ready to take the white flag.
So right now, Andrew Carone is getting the fastest lap. He'll get 56 points for this race. Guillaume Levesque will get 52 if he finishes where he is. That's going to be a 5-point championship gap coming between them two at Watkins Glen. Ted almost got dived. Divin, I don't know what the participle of that word is, but Kwok Din was looking at him, and he's coming. Yeah, dove would be the word, and he just dove right there. He's back to the inside.
So, interesting look, and I got to say, helter-skelter, ding-dong battle. It's great to watch, but if you're Bachelard, Dominguez, and Farrow, you're licking your lips right now as you come onto the final lap saying, you know what, 14th's up for play in a 5-car train coming up to the main straight.
Josiah Farrow's in this battle as well. He had a spin at the hairpin on like lap 2. He was embarrassed, and now suddenly he's potentially got a top 15 on his hands if everything comes to blows into turn 1, and it might just do that. You saw Kwok send the dive last time around. He's got a chance to repeat. He's already to the inside. He's almost going to be clear into turn 1 before they even get to the braking zone. How late in the brakes can Ted be to fight this back? Can he be physically late enough to actually fight it back? I don't think he can. He's going to have to slot back in line and try for the switchback again.
And so they continue to fight. Martin Crisp alongside Dominic Olivier out of 100. And more contact! Olivier is the one that's going to lose out. Crisp holds on to the SimCity Racing machine. But look at these 4 drivers, continuing to go. It's Kwok Nin that has the advantage, though, for the time being.
And I have to correct myself. That was Jeremy Gonsalves who Martin Crisp got in the first time around, I believe. So now he's had some friends with 2 Precision Racing esports drivers. Now Dominic came off the worst in that one, and that one for sure looked like a racing incident at the very least. Just coming through the fastest corner on the track and not being able to give each other that much room.
Race Control will take its look, but at the front, Andrew Carone has sighed through all the drama like Moses, carved his way to the front and did not look back. The point leader grabs a valuable championship win and sets himself up for the finale in 7 days' time. Guillaume Levesque second, Ethan Bass will scramble home a very, very worthy podium winner, with Alessandro Torchio and then Jeremy Gonzalez making up the rest of the top 5. This battle, though, it's not done, it's not dusted. I think Kwoknin has the legs on Ted Lowendick. The real question is, can Josiah Farah get a good run out of the final corner and get past Patrick Bachelard? A bit of a wiggle, lost out the car in the middle part of the corner. I think it's done and dusted now.
It's going to be a drag race to the line for them. Dominic Olivier looks like he's pulling over for Ray Dominguez. I think he may have got a drive-through. He may have hit the incident limit at the end of the race there, because he's coming down pit lane, and that is going to be the end of Dominic Olivier's day. What a shame. Looked strong. Isn't going to end well for him. Kwoknin's had a celebratory crash. Good for him. What a crazy day at Fuji with a totally dominant winner. It was all so crazy on lap 1. I would have imagined that we would have had a close finish, but no, Andrew Carone survived and said, bye guys, I'm just going to win this race.
It did seem as though whatever oil we had on the track in the Fix Series race did slightly get cleaned up, so that was nice to see, and we can grab a look at the winning margins. It's 6 seconds almost between Carone and Guillaume Levesque in the pair of Lise Pearson's machines. Of course, good in the Drivers' Championship, good in the Team Championship for them. Ethan Bass in the Orbit Motorsport 4th, 3rd, with Alessandro Torchio up 5 positions to 4th, 9 positions gained for Gonzalez to 5th. Simon Terrio dropped to 6th in front of Juan Malagon, Ryan Pucktail, Nane Tavares and Martin Crisp, who had his tussle with both of the Precision Racing esports machines over the course of the second phase of the race. Trepanier, Boucher, Nin, Lowendick and Bachelard, the rest of the top 15, with Vincent Trepanier doing enough to at least salvage some points, not what he would have been looking for, all things considered. Faro, Dominguez, Deschardin, Loomis, and Nasser make up the rest of the top 20. All scored on the leading lap, as was the case for Dominic Olivier. It was Boris Ovando, Michael Terrafino, Rafael Franco, as well as Joseph Karn, Fernando Yaquez, Diego Ere, Miguel Fonseca, and Kevin Simpson involved in the wars. And unfortunately for some of those drivers, not making it very far in today's proceedings. The fastest lap went the way of Andrew Carone, and the fact that it was set on the second lap of the race, I think, tells you all that you really need to know. We can make our way down towards victory lane, though, where our race winner standing by once again with Joey Tebben.
Indeed he is. Andrew Carone, ever since lap 1, you're just totally dominant today. Were you looking in the rear view mirrors at all, or were you just enjoying a Fuji track day for the last 40 minutes?
Well, I wish I had more of a race today. There was a lot of things that actually happened behind. So I mean, at this point, I just run my laps, and I didn't run. I think I had a good pace still, but you know, I think I would have had a lot more fun if there was other people around.
So by my calculations, I believe you're going to have a 5-point championship lead over Guillaume at Watkins Glen next week. Is that a comfortable margin to sit on, or are you going to be feeling the pressure from your teammate next week?
I mean, I wouldn't say too much pressure. I mean, me and Guillaume, we always just fight each other. We always just try to beat each other, so it's more of fun fighting between us. So we don't even know like who will win this season. So I think I'm more excited to see what happens next race.
Yeah, luckily, that's our job to keep the points going. Congrats on the win, Andrew, and good luck next week. We'll make sure to tell you if you win the championship.
All right, thank you. I just want to say thank you to everybody at Advanced Motorsport, everybody at Lisi Sports, and all our sponsors. Thank you, guys.
Andrew Carone coming home with the win, but we've got his teammate coming up right as well. Guillaume Levesque, second place today, within 5 points of your teammate coming into the championship finale next week. How are you feeling?
It's only 5 points. I think there will be a little bit more, maybe, no? It will be tough.
Yeah, 4 points today plus 1.
Yeah. Yeah, it will be tough for Watkins Glen because we will have quite a lot of practice on it. So it will be tough to make difference because we have IVRA on this track, so we will be quite ready. So it will be really close for like maybe top 3, top 5. I don't know, but yeah, we'll give a shot. I'm a bit pissed about myself in quali today. I made couple mistakes that cost me a shot at the win maybe, but props to Andrew, he was flying today.
Are you happy to be away from Fuji now? Have you had enough of this place over the last couple weeks?
Not really. I really like this place, and I didn't do sadly the 8 hour, so I didn't overdo it, but I really like this track. It's one of my maybe top 5 track, something like that. So yeah, I like it.
Ringing endorsement. But Guillaume, we'll see you next week. We'll see how that championship shakes out, and we'll wish you good luck.
Yes, thanks to you guys.
Guillaume Levite coming home in second. And just in the nick of time, Arjuna, we do have our triumphant third place finisher, the Bassmaster, Ethan Bass. You switched back to the 4 just for this week, and you put that thing on the podium. How on earth is that possible?
Obnoxious amount of special event prep.
That definitely. How many laps total do you think you did with 8 hours of racing and all the prep? If you could give us a number, you think it's 4 digits?
I definitely know I did the most laps out of all our lads in the 8 hour itself. Let me go have a quick look.
I don't think I'm going to let you check the exact number, but Watkins Glen next week, are you going to be similarly competitive? Is it going to be another podium? Is that going to be similar to Fuji?
I'll be happy with a top 10. I like Watkins a lot. I think the AMG and the 992s will still be difficult to beat. They've got so much more downforce. But if you want a rough estimate, I must have done about 300 odd laps this week around Fuji.
There we go. It all adds up. But Mr. Bassmaster, congrats on the podium. I love the Ford. I'm going to be sad to see it go, but for now, we'll congratulate you and see you next week.
Yep, thanks very much, lads. That's a good bit of fun. Love you, PRL.
Look at that. What a ringing endorsement. How could you hate the Ford after that?
And we're looking forward to the season finale. It's, as Guillaume mentioned, a track that they've got plenty of practice at, and it means qualifying is going to be quite tense, and of course, who knows what the math will look like based on race control decisions going into the final round of the championship, but it could be 2, it could be 3, but realistically, Andrew Corona's sent his way off into Watkins Glen with the perfect result possible and brings to a close a dramatic 9 weeks, and now just sets up that final round of the championship, Joey.
And we can't count out Vincent Trepanier necessarily. It's going to be a big margin for him to make up. It's probably going to be about 20 points or so if I had to guess, but that's surmountable if Caron and Levike run into trouble. If they come together potentially. How many times have we seen that at Watkins Glen? 2 drivers fighting it out through the bus stop and they come together, end up in the wall together. That could be Vincent Trepanier's way to win the championship. I'm scripting it out already, so if it happens, we're gonna be hearing some conspiracy theories, I think. But we want to see drama. We want to see calamity.
We've seen plenty of drama so far this season. What a ride it's been. And don't forget, you can head over to PrecisionRacingLeague.com. Sign-ups are open for 2024 Season 1. For returning members, it will open up in the next week or so for those of you wanting to join all the fun moving forward into a new calendar year. And, well, we can't blame you. It's always a lot of fun. And, well, it's a disappointing note to only have 1 more week to do it, but it comes at a fast-flowing and furious track, and we know the action's going to be great. Thank you so much for joining us here once again on a Tuesday night. The PRL action rumbles on, but for Joey Tabin alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, we thank you for joining us here on RaceSpotTV, and we'll see you in 7 days' time to crown the champion of 2023 Season 4 in the PRL doubleheader of GT3 action.